I'll call to order of mics on. Okay, mics are on. So yeah, go ahead and call the order and just
Okay.
say that, but go for it.
Okay, we will call the Estacada strategic goal setting meeting agenda to order. And I will hand this off to Melanie to go over the goals. And
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for being here on a Sunday morning. And we're still expecting a few more people to trickle in here. But we're going to go ahead and get started so that we aren't just waiting around. And so I wanted to just say a couple things. We have, if feel free if you need to, because this is going to be all afternoon. So the restrooms are down the hall, in the kitchen on the lower shelf in the fridge. There's some bottles of water. There's water behind here, coffee, some fizzy water, anything. If you guys need some refreshments. But I'll turn this over to John when he gets here. He's our facilitator, and thank you for everybody spending some time and talking with him about what your priorities are and where you see the council going, where you see the city needing to go in the next year. And so I appreciate you taking the time. The staff did that too. They all talked to him as well. So when he gets here, I'll turn it over to him. But in the meantime, I will just jump to number 2, which on our list of things to do today, which is a recap of the goals set in the previous session and kind of some highlights and achievements and milestones. So I'm going to start with I put together a city council year in review. And rather than having each department turn in the accomplishments for each department for the year, I thought instead this year, I'm going to go through, take a look at what the city council as a whole accomplished, because everything that you decide on, deliberate about, empower us to do, that decides the work plan for staff. And so here comes John. That's great. All of the decisions that you make allow us to do the work we do. So hey, John, come on in. I heard that there was a roadblock. So we're still waiting for a couple other folks, but I thought I'd get started with our goal update really quickly. And then, yes, you're right there. And then I'll turn it over to you after I go through this, but just kind of at a glance, the city council adopted 8 ordinances, approved 22 resolutions, held 21 regular council meetings and 10 workshops. So you thought you were busy. You were busy this past year. Some of you attended Clackamas City's dinners, met with state legislators to bring funding to Estacada for infrastructure, celebrated the grand opening of Wade Creek Park 3 with the community room and the amphitheater, provided financial support for community groups, and you welcomed, the mayor helped to welcome the governor to Estacada just here right at the end of the year. Some of the events that took place were empowered by the council, but most of those take place because of the committees that you appoint and that you work with. We had fun runs for adults and children, 4th of July parade, summer concerts in the park, library summer reading, and additional programs for children and adults. There was a national night out event, arts and culture programs, art at the creek, Oktoberfest, and the community tree lighting to wrap it up at the end of the year. And then I have a handout in the papers that are there, and it kind of just goes through what you did each month of the year. I threw in a few pictures for interest, but there was just a lot of things going on that the city council needed to learn about, deliberate about, make decisions on in order to lead the community. And so I thought that would be a good way to just kind of do a recap. And if you have any questions, just you can let me know about that. And would this be, before I actually go through my goal update, John, should we backtrack to number 1? I wasn't sure how long it would actually take you to get here. And so with the road closure, but is that on?
Hello? Okay, perfect. I think it'd be great if we could just go back to number 1 and just apologize for being late. The road construction on the bridge on 205, Mayor and Council, and the privilege to be here. And again, thank you for your time today. I know that you all volunteered to serve on these positions and to have the time to sit here today and really talk about the vision and where you want to go with the goals for the city is extremely important, right? And appreciate the staff being here too, and Melanie, and the chance to work with you and go through this today. I think it's going to be a fun, exciting opportunity to really go forward. So I'd like to, just maybe if we could do a quick round of introductions, maybe say how long you've been on council, how long you've lived in Estacada, a little bit about yourself. That would be great from that standpoint there. And I'll just kick it off. My name is John Lagarza. My firm's Healthy Sustainable Communities. I've worked in Estacada. I've known the mayor. We've done some business recruitment out here over the years. It's been it's a great city. I consider Estacada the heart of the Clackamas here, and you have a wonderful staff. And over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I appreciate the opportunity to talking with each of you. Some of them I might not have had the chance to talk with, but I think today is really going to be a great opportunity to think about what is the vision that you're wanting to create for your town as you go forward here. And as we go through the session, you're going to see a lot of goals that there's basically 5 goals that you're going to see after talking to you that I see emerged, and that we'll explore those more as we go through the day here. So with that, we can do a round robin. That would be fantastic from there. Thank you.
I'm Jonathan Metcalf. I'm the new guy to City Council. Been here since September 11th, and I've lived in Estacada for 8 years. So,
Michael McElroy. I've been on the council for about 1.5 years. Work here in town, got kids here at school here in town, and love Estacada.
I'm Charity Hughes. I'm going into my 4th year and on city council. Lived in Estacada almost 8 years, and my family and I just really enjoy this town and this community. We love it.
Sean Drinkwine, the mayor of Estacada, been here a while now. I would say probably 30 years in the immediate area. I've served on the council and as mayor for 15 years now, going on 16, a long time. I've seen a lot of great changes, and I've seen a town that has grown and become something almost unrecognizable to me these days. But at the same time, it's beautiful, and the people in it are really wonderful. So I just want to thank all of you for coming today and being a part of this with John here, because I think he's got a lot to offer us and help us along the way. So, Paul?
Paul Strobel, moved here 2011 for business opportunity, which has been great for us. Still working here in Estacada. Kids have made it through the schools, all 3 of them, and they've moved out of Estacada now and are doing great as well too. And moved here, did I say 2011? And I feel like I've been involved since day one. That's the great thing I think about the community. There's so much to do, so many opportunities. It's been just a great community to be a part of as well too. And then on council about as long as Charity.
Heidi Prokop. I just hit my 1st year. I think it's tomorrow is the anniversary. I've lived in Estacada coming on 8 years now. Yeah.
Do you want us to go around with staff too, or just? Okay, all right. All right, I'm Melanie, I'm the city manager, and I just passed my 15-year anniversary of working for the city. I can't believe it's been 15 years. I grew up here in the 90s. I moved away from 88 to 98. I didn't live here, and then came back and have been here since then. And I love Estacada, and I'm really glad to be able to have opportunity to work with all of you as we're leading the charge for wherever Estacada is going to go next.
Elena Turpin, the assistant city manager. It is actually my 2-year anniversary here at the city. So, and I love it. Love the work. It's a lot of fun.
I'm Sadie Payne, and I'm the city recorder and finance director, and I've worked here for 19 years and lived in Estacada for almost 42.
I worked here for 16 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and lived here. It's Chris Lewis. I do the water and wastewater. Born and raised in Estacada. Started working for the city in 2001. Took a 3-year break. Someone else came back.
Michelle Kinnaman, and the director of the public library. And I have worked here for 14 years.
Great, thank you. Well, just kind of recap or again, thank you for your time coming out here on a Sunday. I know it's, football's going on, all kinds of kids have activities, but this is important for everyone. And we're going to try and make it be fun today. So just, going through, just letting you know, we're going to, going on the agenda here today. We're having lunch, and then we're going to kind of go through, Melanie, you're going to talk about some of the last year's 2023 goals. And then we're going to do something that's kind of fun as an icebreaker, is a trivia exercise, Estacada trivia there. And one of the things that's really impressed me, just, meeting everyone and talking through, is just, you have a lot of institutional knowledge here with this whole team, right? And so hopefully I get teamed up with someone that's been here a long time to help win today, but no, just kidding. When I listen to the staff and some of the people on council and just, kids going through your school, there's a lot of knowledge that's been over the years that's taken place. And I think that's real important as you really think today about what is that vision that you as the leadership of this town are looking to create in the future, right? So, and just what are some of the past lessons learned, and what are some of the great assets that you have in this community? Again, I really think Estacada is the heart to the Clackamas corridor here. So thinking about how you're going to create that rural feeling with the downtown and, industry and stuff as you move forward, I think is real important as we talk about that today too. Then we're going to go through, I'll talk about some of the merging 5 goals that I've seen that come out of the conversations with you today. And then we'll just do a just a round robin, and we'll go through each goal, and I would like to hear your participation and feedback on that from that standpoint. And then there'll probably be even some goals from 2023 that will overlap and fall into 2024 goals. There'll be an action within that item there too. So we'll kind of do that. Melanie will work the whiteboard, and we'll take down those areas there too. And then we'll just wrap up talking about some, milestones and putting together your vision for the future here, and wrap up the report there. I do ask that, again, as we go through the day today, and when we have times to speak, I think that cities has a teams agreement that we all be respectful of each other. I ask if you need to speak, that you turn your, little sign up here, and then when you're done, we just turn it down. So we just be mindful that we're not speaking over everyone here as we go here. So with that, Melanie, let's everyone's got their lunch, I'm assuming, and we'll just go through the 23 quarter update there on the goals there. And then if there's a couple things that we might see, we'll open up for discussion. If there's a couple goals that we didn't get through this year, let's bring them up. We'll put them in the parking lot. And then as we go through the strategic goals for 2024, we'll find a placeholder for them in the 2024 there. So,
Okay, great. Before I get started, John, I realize as we set this up, would you rather sit over here so you're facing them more? We set you over there so you could see the screen, but maybe you need, if you want to move, feel free to move.
You guys want to see me over here?
Either way, okay, all right. And then I gave each of you this, but I thought rather than just reading down it, I just kind of made a summary type of a PowerPoint that we can roll through. And Sadie's gonna help me do that. Hey, Peter. So first of all, if we go to the next page, I know it's not as easy to roll that as if it was an actual PowerPoint, but your first goal for 2023 was facilitate community interaction and communication. And I have update in the far right column of status. I've put some what my opinion is of where we're at with these goals, but I do feel that progress was made on most of those strategies for facilitating community interaction and communication. Develop a new communication strategy is still pending. And this could be one of the roles. I think communication was a common denominator that came out amongst everybody in John's conversation. So this could be rolled into 2024. Additional discussion with the council would be helpful on that to make sure we're going in the right direction. But that is, the communication is one thing that I didn't get as far into as I wanted to this past year. Your next goal of supporting community vitality We did make some progress in that. In fact, the Main Street Improvement Project is starting construction. This month is the plan. They're getting ready to roll with that. We've had multiple events, the 4th of July Parade, Oktoberfest, summer concerts, Art at the Creek, and fun runs. We did get that TLT, the transient lodging tax, established to help support tourism. And we do have a pilot project running right now for tourism, in addition to Visit Estacada, which is managed by the Chamber of Commerce and their tourism arm. And so we did make some progress in this section. However, if we go to the next one, actually back one. I think back one. Sorry, I know it's, there we go. No, it's the next one with the boats. All right, yeah. Right there. Okay, so it's probably no secret to you, economic development needs work still. We did start exploration with RDI doing ECDev 101, and we had a tourism workshop with Mount Hood Territory. And the council did discuss and decide on what to do with urban renewal district. And that the decision on that was that when this one wraps up, that we would be starting a new urban renewal district and agency. So we did make some progress in that, but the next slide is that we still have a lot to do, still to be done, which may get rolled into 2024 goals, because I'm hearing that it's still priority for all of you. Development of family and wage jobs, recruit businesses where we have needs and gaps. Development of a 5-year plan for economic growth that would help us have that strategy carrying forward. And then how can we attract what we want and need in Estacada? So there is a lot still to be done there. I just wanted to point that out. And then next, create a safe and accessible community was your next goal. Strategies included in the 2023 goals have been implemented, such as we have a process now to respond to community safety concerns. We have some methods for resolving traffic speed complaints in neighborhoods, not to say that, sometimes immediate results are expected, and we're all living together here, different people with different priorities. And so it takes a while to work things out, but we do have a process and method that we've implemented, at least to work on that. We do have increased communication with the police chief. The mayor meets with him monthly, and I usually talk with him weekly. He'll be bringing the annual report to the council at the next meeting, and as well as traffic and public safety committee. So that is happening, and we are preparing to increase police services with added deputies and additional hourly coverage. So we are planning to and have budgeted for bringing on another deputy in March when they have a shift bump twice a year, March and September. And so in March, we should be able to bring on another deputy, and we'll continue to ramp up from there. Also on the next, there we go. Creating a safe and accessible community. We have some ongoing work to do. It's something that will probably, I suppose we could get done with this eventually, but probably it's always going to be ongoing, where we're continuing to improve gaps in the sidewalk system, which is mostly in the older parts of Estacada. And so potentially we could eventually, in the next decade, be done with this. But it's something that it's expensive. And so we kind of keep whittling away at it, which I feel is one of our strengths, is to keep moving forward on things. Every year we push things forward. But it is ongoing work to continue with sidewalk gaps, the streetlight audit and the wayfinding signage. Those two projects didn't get completed this year, but the Traffic and Public Safety Committee is looking at the streetlights and where we might be in need of more light. And then wayfinding signage was just recommended to me recently. Maybe Parks and Rec could work on that. As it'd be like for walking or biking from downtown, if you want to get up to the park or the library or the school. If you're uptown, you want to get to the fire station, or you want to get to City Hall. And just to kind of figure out where people might be traveling to and how it would help people who might not be as familiar with the area to find their way around. And also in improving community assets, some things that are still in process are the code for park requirements and new developments, and seeking funds for the Lakeshore Water Access Project. Those are actively being worked on, but have not been completed yet. And as far as the code, now that we have the TSP wrapped up, the Community Development Department will be able to take on some other projects. I know Peter's going to be working with them on our code in general, and development code, but this, especially this was called out to have code for park requirements. And that is on the list, but not completed. And then we have, we're in process with our water master plan update. That'll be done in the next 2 or 3 months. We'll be moving forward. We'll be moving forward on plant improvements, which will first, once we get our master plan update, that'll tell us what we need to do. Then we'll need to budget for engineering and for the improvements that need to be made to the plant. And we still need to construct that high level reservoir. This is a picture of one of our reservoirs. So just still seeking property that would be at the right elevation, the right part of town. There's a lot of little the little pieces of that project that need to line up in order. We can't just go out and put it anywhere. So we're specifically looking for a good piece of property for that where we would have a willing seller. So that's in process, but is a high priority. The splash pad, we have the components, we've received those, and we just need to cite that because it's looking like the Wade Creek Park is not going to be feasible for getting the water in, the electricity, and electricity is not as big of a deal, but the water in and the draining it out, because we can't drain it to the storm. We have to drain it to the sewer. Long story, but that is in process and we do have the components for that. And then the Highway 224 landscape is still in process. All right, also under improved community assets, the TSP is complete. I know that you and many of our committees and staff have worked very hard to bring that to the end. And so that has one more reading and adoption process, but that will be complete. And then we are, on the list was to evaluate developing a city facility master plan. That did not get started this past year. Might be something that we want to roll into part of a growth management plan, beginning with your goals in 2024. I think it is still needed, but I just did not get to that this year. And then your last goal was ensure good governance. And one thing was to develop a plan for code review. That's in process. And as I said before, now that the TSP is wrapping up, there'll be more time and capacity available in the community development department for that. And then the psilocybin code that we had on the ballot a couple of years ago for a 2-year moratorium, that will be coming up. So we'll be working with Peter and getting your opinions on that. We need to get some information so that we can feed you information, or maybe your own research also could play into that as far as how do we want to refer it back to the voters.
And that's just a deal where every 2 years, we can't do a moratorium like we can do with other stuff. We have to re-up it every 2 years and the voters have to approve it every 2 years.
Okay, that I was not aware of that. Thank you, Peter.
Though, frankly, because I didn't know what was going to happen when this thing passed and everything. And I'm not aware of that many psilocybin facilities and others around the state. So
we'd want to figure out how best to incorporate it into the code or to do another 2-year.
I'm assuming based on our last conversation that you guys probably want to do another 2-year moratorium. So we'll just need to put that on the ballot and hopefully this is the second time, so voters will remember what the issues were and but we can do some voter education.
Great, thank you, Peter. All right, and I think that's the end. So if you have any questions that you can ask now, or if you want clarification on anything I just shared, feel free. Otherwise, we can also discuss this as we're going through John's portion of the update. And I will remind, if we do have staff that are weighing in on a topic of more than just introductions, we want to get the microphone passed around so that it'll be able to be heard on the recording. But
great, thanks, Melanie. I think it's a great time just to kind of pause and get some feedback from the council here. Just kind of just highlight seeing some of the goals. when we look at facility community interaction and communication, developing a new communication strategy was on the first page here, right? And when I interviewed and talked to the council, this was something that I heard from everyone, is how we communicate to the public and how we also engage the public and engage the youth and just, building awareness out to the community, right? And as you see, as we go into the strategic goals in the future today, that'll be a goal that came out to think about building a communication plan. And what does that look like as you go forward in 2024, right? Getting awareness out in the newspaper, travel publications, how you engage in events with the youth in your community, and then thinking about your committees, right? Like Melanie and I have talked about something to think about that other towns at this size, really thinking about building a citizens, education committee to have them come in and learn what it is to serve in government, right? And thinking about getting youth ad hoc representation in your communities, right? So, the youth 50 years from now is going to be the leaders in our community, right? And every city really struggles, right? In trying to engage youth and trying to get people to serve on the committees. Sometimes it's a revolving door, and it's just really, having people become aware of how to participate in your communities, right? So is there anything else on the community interaction communication that goal that the council would see that needs to be brought forward for next year there too?
I think
I think it'd be good to get some more information out, just educating people on the process that the planning department goes through when approving permits, things of that nature. Get a lot of discussion about people that just don't quite understand the process, and they're frustrated with the city staff or with the city council about things that are outside of the power. Without breaking the law that we couldn't do. So
I think that's a great idea, because
Yeah.
one of the things I heard from the council is just, it's education, and the city of Sandy does a really interesting, they do a walking tour a couple of times a year, right? So whether it's learning about the wastewater treatment plant or what you're going to do for your water treatment facility in the future, or the process of permitting, right? Or what kind of economic vitality things you're looking to explore, right? So I think really thinking about how you show those processes take place, it could be a great goal as part of your communication strategy in 2024. And I just kind of want to back up, is that one of the important things to think about in your, strategic goal setting is to really be thinking where you're going outward in the next 5 years, right? We can always identify what sometimes councils do is we'll get into identifying, the sidewalk needs to be replaced from 3rd to 5th Street, and we need a stop sign on, Elm, right? But we want to start thinking about what's that vision that you as the leaders of this community want Estacada to be known for, right? And moving forward in that direction, and how we engage the public and the youth, and as a great example there. So, Mayor?
I was just gonna go along that same line. I mean, we've, over the last couple of years, I think more than anything, with everything raising, the price of electricity, the price, everything. The public is on major alert, right? And they're worried. They're worried because it's hitting their pocketbook. But we as a city are also gonna have to increase, because we're building more in our city, such as the water, sewer, and everything else that we're coming up on. What I think I'd like to, get us focused on is reaching out more to the community at this point. We're losing our community, the trust between us and them. And I think we need to regain that. And I'm not sure the way we do that at this point. I think what we need to do is reach out, bring them into the fold. We had a couple picnics out on the lawn, introduction this last year, but we didn't do the barbecue. So it was maybe 2 out of 3 that we had planned, or 2 out of 4. Do you remember? How many?
I don't remember how many now, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm saying is we've lacked in that area at a time that we really need to amp it up. I think the community wants to know what we're thinking. They want to be invited into the living room. I get that. They should be. It should be right there up front. So I think we need to reach out more and bring it to a place where they all feel comfortable going. Wherever we decide to do that, if it's Wade Creek or City Hall or however we do that, but bring it in a friendly way that says, hey, we're with you. We're not against you here. We're all on the same page. I think that would be a focus that we really need to get on. And that's just something I think more important than anything else, because I don't want to lose the people of Estacada because they don't trust me.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
And that's really my focus. And I want to say to Melanie, to kind of add into the goals, I'd like to know how the police feel about working here. Are they feeling better about Estacada as a whole since they've been on contract? Are they happy?
Yes, I think that our deputies that are working here and Chief Mendoza are all really pleased with how things are going in Estacada. And
'cause they're doing
I
a
know
good
he
job.
enjoys being able to meet with you consistently. It's great.
Good, good. All right, that's all I have.
I think that's great. And, you know, I don't know if you've done this in Estacada, but sometimes just, you know, that's something that can be coming in your communication strategies as you look in 2024 and build that. But a lot of times they'll have coffee with the mayor. And I don't know if you've done that here in Estacada, but, you know, those are great ways to engage the public to be learning about what you're doing, what major projects, what you're considering doing in the future, you know, and be able to really get folks to show up and be engaged. It's sometimes, you know, sometimes we have this distrust with government, right? And it's just doing more of those events. And we know COVID kind of created that pause there, but it's something I think as you think about in your communication strategy going forward is like, what are some of those events, right? And have staff put a communication plan and bring that forward to the council to think about some of those events. So, Jonathan?
In support of what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, I think that we need to figure out a way that we can communicate to the public that we understand and appreciate their values with rural as well. I think it's a pretty big indication that you hear everybody is saying like the "Don't Portland My Estacada" thing. That's pretty transparent. Like if you read any of the social media posts, I'm not saying you have to engage in them, but if you read them, you read the conversations, everybody's worried that we're gonna get flooded with, we'll lose this small town feel. So I think it's really important from a leadership aspect that we communicate that value is with us as well to keep this rural. And on that same note, I think that there needs to be a definitive line between progressive in the sense of politically speaking and progressive in the sense of progression in a community, right? As we modernize, as we grow and things like that, that we're not necessarily saying we have to become progressives or, you know, not to lean on anything politically speaking, but that's not what we're telling you by this. We're saying that in order to keep this rural, this small community, this strong community, there needs to be a standard. We need to get ahead of Portland to prevent Portland, essentially. And I think there's creative ways to do that. And I know this is kind of a hair trigger thing. There's creative ways to do it, though, that you look at some of these smaller communities that are growing and they're modernizing and doing things like that, but they're still able to capture, like Park City, Utah, they're still able to capture that small, elegant feeling, but still be the tip of the spear at the same time. So for me personally, like one of the things I do is I do listen, and I listen with intent, and like that "Don't Portland My Estacada" is a reoccurring thing I see everywhere. And I'm with that. I like the small town. That's why I'm out here. I think we pay a lot of money to be out here so that we can stay away from all that. But we need to get in front of it a little bit here, and we need to modernize, and we need to, I even saw it in the notes here, we need to attract what we want. And what makes this community strong is excellence, right? We're strong and we're together. So we need to create a level of excellence, not only within ourselves, holding ourselves accountable as leadership, but how do we do that in this community? How do we get more people involved, both like we were talking in the youth and in the school systems, in these committees and different things like that, right? And so I think when we're talking about communication, we really need the community to come together and understand that we are working for them to protect this, but that no matter what, there is a change coming. So how can we embrace it, right? And be in front of it. Not to be repetitive, but it's important.
Thank you. Counselor Hurst?
Yeah, so I just to kind of piggyback off of what the mayor was saying about rebuilding that trust in our community, as well as what Councilor Metcalf is saying, you know, attracting and getting ahead of things. So you've got two things working, you know, that we need to have working together. And I know that when you and I spoke about goal setting, you know, briefly talked about doing town halls. And Estacada, set being that it's a rural community and with more, a lot of people kind of have these old fashioned values and a little bit of like old, when we do things like what's up Estacada, things like that, those are kind of new and snazzy. And I think what sometimes this community needs is just a good old fashioned town hall, just to be very transparent and opportunities with the public where we can just sit down and in an open forum, but yet there's some formality, if you will. So maybe a town hall on the wastewater treatment plant, just to provide that transparency and how the process went. Just things like that. I think especially some members in our older community that sounds familiar to them. They're like, oh, a town hall. Okay, that I'll go to. I don't know what's up Estacada is all about, or some of the new, that's great for the younger community. And I think we should still implement those things, but I think we need to just kind of revisit some good old fashioned community outreach, especially to some of our older community members. That would just, I don't know, just some thoughts. And I know you and I had talked about that, but reestablishing that trust is something that's really kind of been on my heart this, the past few months, just with reading what's going on in social media. And I just want to make sure that we're being as transparent and as open to the community as we possibly can be. So,
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I think, again, I think that's a great opportunity with 2024 for staff to come forward with some different strategies on your communication. Maybe it's almost, with COVID, workforce has gone to hybrid, right? And the communication in the communities is almost a hybrid model, because you have the older generation, the newer generations on the AI, and technology is moving quickly, right? And so it's going to be a mixture, and some things will succeed and some things won't, right? You maybe like, for example, Coffee with the Mayor, you get 50 people show up, maybe not, maybe you get 5, but maybe your town hall, you get 50, so you're going to have to experiment with a couple of those as you do that, right? But I think it's a new hybrid model as you kind of grow, but as the city grows, really thinking about how you continue to build that communication. And it also, I think, will overlay with your future growth management, thinking about your public information officer or something in the future, right? Like how you continue to shape what your vision is for community there. So I think Jerry was next, and then Heidi, and then Peter. Is that
along the same lines of what everybody's saying? I think that, so on here it says engage unincorporated Estacada is complete for 2023. I think we need to continue that for 2024, and then also some form of again, voter education, or just community education. No one in this room is trying to bring unincorporated Estacada into Estacada. This all happens by, developers buying property and then applying, how it works, but we're not trying to spread. We're not trying to sprawl. None of us have initiated that. But that's one thing that I hear a lot is that we're, that it's us in this room that are trying to bring this all in when we're not. I mean, all we can do is just go by what city code is and then vote based on that. If they meet code, we legally can't tell them no. There's just some sort of education, inside the city limits, and then also unincorporated Estacada. But we just need to keep getting those people involved, because they are still part of Estacada, even though they're not in city limits. So
that's a good point. Heidi?
Oh, I agree with what everybody is saying, but the only thing I wanted to add is that whatever we do, I want to make sure that we are using plain language. Legislation is difficult to read and comprehend, even for me. So I just want to focus on that.
Here.
Yeah, something I've noticed in the last couple of months, and it's something that has happened in other communities that I've staffed, is there's some people that post things, and I think it's because they're genuinely confused about how things work, particularly our tax system, and the fact that property taxes don't reset at the point of sale. They just go up 3% a year max for an existing house. But There also seem to be some people that are posting things that are objectively false, that seem to know that they're posting things that are objectively false. And, you know, in other cities, the most extreme example being Damascus, but there have been other cities I've staffed where we've had the same issue. The people seem to find kind of a wedge issue, and then they'll post things, whether it's about staff or whether it's about council or the mayor or the community, that, you know, they're not a matter of opinion. It's objectively true or false. And I'm a little bit worried about some of that here, because again, I don't think it's necessarily people that are a bit confused. I think they seem to know what's accurate, and then they're saying something else. And I don't know if we can somehow bring them in or better understand, okay, why is it that they're doing this? And again, I don't know what's in anyone's motivation. You never know what's in somebody's heart. But in other communities, I've seen sometimes a group's identity becomes the opposition to the thing being the city or staff or what have you. And then that kind of gives people their identity. And before that happened, and it can go terribly wrong, because, you know, inaccurate information, so easy to post online. But I guess if before we're not there yet, but maybe if there's some way to kind of bring people into the fold, or find a way that they contribute in a way that's positive to the community, that might be a good idea. Because it feels like it's ramping up a little bit.
I appreciate that insight. I think too, like, just really, staff and I talked about, you know, and I think something is how you can establish some FAQs, you know, and really try and get that out ahead. You know, you got to get out and message a lot, you know, some of the work that you're doing. You're doing fabulous work, right? But how do you get out in front of that voice sometimes? So again, I think that's something, you know, falls into your communication strategy, to think about how you do that messaging and move that forward there. So looking at your next goal, that was 2023, was your support for community vitality there. And I think, as you'll see in one of the 5 strategic goals that we'll talk about later, is really working on your economic development within your community, your downtown. You have a fabulous industrial park right now, but look at some of these things they're going to probably go over is a family wage job, looking at some of the business gaps that you have within the area here, establish an economic development commission there, and looking at your urban renewal there. So I wanted to pause there and get council's feedback on anything else from there that you see from the last year's goals that need to be carried over from there. All agree? Sounds pretty, I mean, go ahead there, Mike.
I had one quick comment from the previous discussion, just saying that to what Peter was saying, I think what Counselor Hughes was talking about with the town hall, and bringing some of those voices that may be making statements like that into a town hall where they can make a statement and you can respond. I think one of the problems is at the council meetings, people from the community come up and speak for 3 minutes, and it's not a back and forth. It's just them making a statement or asking questions, and then we just move on to the next statement without clarifying or responding to their questions. And that adds to the feeling that, like, we're not listening to them. I think a town hall forum where they came in and they spoke for 3 to 10, whatever amount of time it is, but all those questions that they had, or anything that's wrong that they're speaking about, if they're mis-explaining something, having the opportunity to explain to them clearly, and everyone else who's listening to it, would give us an opportunity to clarify some of those things. I think the town hall idea is a great idea. I'd love to participate in some of that stuff. As far as the vitality, I think continuing to find ways to try to incentivize large companies, at least, you know, a 50+ employee company, getting them into Estacada with some family wage jobs. I'd be really interested in that. We have the enterprise zone that's part of the industrial park right now that incentivizes improvements on the property, so that you don't have to pay taxes for 3 or 5 years on the improvements. But if we could find other ways to incentivize just getting some large anchor employers into Estacada so that people in the community didn't have to commute to Portland or to Oregon City or Vancouver or wherever to get a good job. I think that would be great for the community. And it's something I'd like to focus on the next year.
Thank you. Jonathan?
One more note on that last thing. I think that we also need to look at on the communication thing. This is really important. And I forgot this piece, but if you're on a commission or in the staff or on council, yes, it's volunteer and yes, you're entitled to your First Amendment rights of speech, but I don't think it does the community any good to be prodding, poking, getting in people's messages, talking trash. I think there needs to be a level of accountability to the people at Melanie. We've been dealing with this back and forth for email for the last 3 weeks now, right? In one specific case, right? So if you're in a position of leadership, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and let people say what they're going to say, but antagonizing the community, I don't think is doing any good on that. On the vitality thing, specifically, I want to second Councilman McElroy because I think it's super important. How do we attract bigger and better companies? I think incentivizing is a great goal, but how and what does that look like? And then also, we're talking about getting the community involved. What are we doing to, and this is more, I guess, a question for staff. What are we doing to ask the community what kind of businesses they want here? What are we doing to incentivize or bring somebody or to network with some of these bigger companies or other companies that would provide value to this community other than, I look at Malala, for example, and I see wow, great. They built a new Burger King and they, everywhere around here has a Burger King. What can we do to incentivize something new, something fresh that will attract other communities as well to drive more revenue into our local businesses? So, I'm looking for, just out of curiosity, ideas on what we can do to do that as well. I think you made a really good point.
Thank you. I think that's great. Definitely saw that emerge, talking with your council, like really thinking about your economic development as you move forward. And I think one of the things you really need to think about, is having an economic development commission and kind of, you'll see that goal. We'll talk about it a little bit more today. And again, when I talk about thinking about your strategic, where you're going, right? And having that clear message as you, as the mayor and the council, as you communicate this, and the mayor knows this, that, when we established the cross-laminated timber industry here in Clackamas County, that messaging was really strong. And when companies were looking to locate here, the company knew the city was supportive of that, right? So really working with, like, establishing an economic development commission, having a strategic plan with your economic development commission that comes forward and the council approves that, right? And then that's, again, when you're out there and you're meeting with businesses or you're talking to representatives of Business Oregon or legislatures, right? Knowing what you're looking for to recruit in your community is important. And you're all rowing that boat in the same direction. So I think that's something we'll talk about as we go forward with the strategic goals, but great idea. Seems to be a message that I heard from all the councils there. Paul?
The one that stands out to me quite a bit is the continue working with the downtown commercial properties in disrepair. We've had a lot of positives in the past few years with the apartments that went in next to the True Value or Ace Hardware over there. Great turnaround, great improvement there. The Mossy Rock building, great improvement on that. Just there's been a lot of good positives in the downtown area, but we still have a number of places that, as long as I've been here and longer, that need attention. The empty lot next to the post office, the place across from the apartment buildings, and then the old Art Smith is what it's called over on Broadway. I've heard a business coming in there of a business, but I haven't seen anything happen there yet. And then what could be the vacant lot perpetually across the street from the city hall as well too, especially on Main Street. What can we do? This is a pathway that people come in and head up to the schools, but that we can really get some of these perpetually empty spaces, property owners engaged in working on them to get things improved.
I think it's great because I think, again, back to, what I've heard too is, you still want to have that rural small town feel, right? So thinking about how you create that and market that and provide those incentives, when you look at Sisters Oregon, right? When you go in, they've done a great job of, really organically growing businesses like Sisters Meat House, a coffee shop, boot manufacturer, builder there. Those are things that when you think of Estacada, like what do you want to be known for in your downtown fabric, and really creating those incentives and harvesting those type of folks that you want to bring into your downtown there. And I know the grocery store that came up from everyone, from staff and everywhere. So, but again, it's just identifying that and thinking about where you would put that grocery store. What kind of incentives would you do, and having that true vision in not only with staff, but with the council. And then when you're able to go out in the community and market that helps a business operator in a grocery store see the end in mind, right? So I'll hop to Elaine and then I'll come back to you, Jerry.
So I want to address some of the things that both Jonathan and Paul brought up. One is, what are we doing? We have a market study that we're going to be doing here. We put it on the schedule for the winter, and that'll show, what the market penetration is, what we could support here, what people are leaving the area and spending their money elsewhere that we could potentially bring in. And having that kind of data is really helpful when we're going out and kind of recruiting these businesses, that we can show them, hey, here's the data that shows we could support a grocery store because, this is how much money is being spent here, that they're driving up to Sandy or they're driving over to Oregon City. And then as far as I did receive, the new owner of the Artsmith reached out for me regarding urban renewal grants. And so if they move forward with that application, you'll see something there. And that would be definitely a positive on that building that's been vacant for a very long time.
Jerry.
Okay, so this is kind of an idea to attract businesses in the industrial area. Maybe go to the manufacturing businesses that are down there and see who they're, if they've got a major customer that buys a lot of their product, that's paying to have it shipped to, shipped from there to their facility. Maybe try to attract those businesses so that that stuff can stay centralized. And then so you get one, you've got a manufacturer there, and you get one of their biggest customers in there, and then there's a possibility that to continue that loop, to bring those businesses in, so they're all in like a central area. They're paying less because shipping is getting is one more thing that's just getting out of hand. The price is going up, but it kind of takes some of that logistics out of play if they're all in one industrial complex, or a lot of them are in one industrial complex. They can everybody would make more money, create more business. So
yeah, what you're talking about is really creating an ecosystem within, and it's an excellent idea because you have great light manufacturing there. You have a lot of crossover, type of skill sets that work in there, and it's again. I go back to like getting an economic development strategic plan and then building that awareness when you're in your recruitment there. So then businesses can see what type of skill sets you're having. That's a great idea. Again, that industrial park is a great amenity that you have in this community here. A lot of communities your side would be envious of having that. And it's an asset as you think forward in your strategic goals, is building on that and building on awareness there. That industrial park will feed into your downtown with those jobs, and we want to retain that and have those kind of businesses here. So Jonathan.
On the industrial park thing specifically, we're just on some of the vacant spaces. I think we should also look at, in our considerations of when we're attracting, can we attract somebody that can help offset some of the taxpayer-based stuff, right? Can we attract a company or bring a company in here that they make such a large profit subsidiary, they're going to donate money to help the school improve. They're going to help maybe a sports complex and other needs that this community has, right? I think within not only the staff, with the council, we have a very diverse ecosystem of assets right here amongst us. I mean, code, and you have relationships with county and different things like that, as far as understanding processes and things. I mean, if we could really lean into finding a way to attract somebody that can help, because let's be real, we're hearing a lot of the feedback we're hearing is like, oh, our water bill is gonna go up $90. And I'm sensitive to that as well. But no matter what, that is coming. We are there already. It's a need. And that's what needs to be communicated, is that the sooner that this happens, the lower the cost will be. But to offset that, maybe we can attract some of these companies that they donate or they have whatever to help because of that. If you build like, that'll bring a new substation in, it will make PG have to bring a new substation in if you were to build something larger out there in the industrial area. So how do we attack that specifically too?
Yeah, that's great. It's like a community benefit program would be how we maybe create that. So when you're working with the business, you could have dollars come back and they stay in your community for like parks or other things you're trying to do for your community. So great idea. Peter, and then we'll move on to the next one. I know we're running a little bit behind here, so.
Most cities are out of industrial land now. So like Canby's industrial park is literally out of lots. Tualatin until Basalt Creek comes in is completely out of lots. And I've heard that Sherwood is almost out as well. So one thing you might consider is going to the economic development departments in those cities with just a flyer of this is what we've got. We don't have natural gas, but we've got this number of acres, this zoning. And when they get approached by people, whether it's business or someone else, then they might be able to say, well, we don't have the dirt that you need, but you might consider looking in Estacada, because land use wise, region wise, it's currently us and Scappoose. And that's almost, I mean, Gresham's still got a little bit, but not very much. And for the county to bring in the area that was going to be Damascus, it's hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure. So there's no obvious alternative to us outside of like Salem Kaiser. And I just think it's a lack of awareness that people don't know what we have available. And I don't know that they're aware of the workforce housing and executive housing that's in Estacada now. I don't think they know. And so I think if we were to almost do like this is Estacada, this is the land available, this type of housing, these are the school scores, then it's a very attractive place for people to live. And for those sort of jobs that will be in a manufacturing park where people can get existing housing or build a new home, I mean, it seems like it could work.
Yeah, Peter, those are some great points. And I think that those kind of tie back into your communication strategy that you'll see, like really building that message, of the different housing products that you have, the space, your great schools, you have a city with a vision here. And that will help, really thinking about the rest of those industrial lands and plus the old mill site that you have and how some of that will transform, right? But creating that vision and it's just having the time and, you've been growing and just Millie and I've talked about this is how you kind of build that communication as you go forward the next couple of years, right? It's not where you need a full-time person, but it's somewhere where you're going to probably need to think about outsourcing and, get that message in the newspaper, get that in the, the recruiting agencies that are looking for land and that about Estacada, building that message, just getting out ahead of that there. So moving forward here, talking about community assets there. We see the wastewater treatment plant that's carrying over. That's going to fall into your strategic goal of infrastructure that you're going to see here. The water treatment facility, and then the facility master plan there, and then your splash pad is in and underway there. So is there anything else on community assets that and the lakeshore? I mean, that's a great project that you're doing there that but those all really fall under infrastructure as you go forward, thinking about your strategic goal for 2024. Yes, Councilor Harris.
Just to piggyback off of, we've got prioritized code amendment for park requirements for new developments. I know one thing that this community definitely needs is we need more park space for sports and recreation. Our schools are getting more populated, and with that, the sports within our school district, we're running out of space. So we don't have enough baseball fields, we don't have enough soccer fields. Kids are just kind of on top of each other. So I would like to see that added somewhere, and maybe a little more focus as this community is growing. We definitely, that's a definite need. And a lot of kids in our community, I would say almost all of them play some sort of sport. That's just what we do out here. So
I think that's a great point, and Melanie and I kind of talked about it, is just thinking about underneath your infrastructure goal, because having parks and amenities is important for a community, right? And it might be something that's just updating your, a mini update on your parks master plan, right? And where would those areas be, so maybe you study 2 or 3 areas in 2024 as a potential, where would those signings be? Bring those to council, get some input back, right? And again, that's just being, forward thinking on your, how you manage that in the future from that standpoint there. Peter, did you still have a?
Oh, no, sorry. I forgot
Okay.
it.
All right. Anything else on the last, yes.
Just didn't see, we're continuing to pursue increasing our water rights, correct? Is that lined out somewhere in the strategic goals?
That's in the water master plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And then the last one we had was in ensuring good governance, and that was the really exploring the current code there. And that's kind of an ongoing one, I think, that you'll have going on here from that standpoint there. So I appreciate your feedback. Again, there's some great work that will be falling over into the strategic goals for 2024 there. And next, we're going to hop into having a little fun here, and that's the trivia here. So what we're going to do for this is that we'll just count off. I think we'll do 5 teams of 3. I think we have 15.
Except for I can't play. I get the questions.
So
we got 7, 8, 9.
No, I want you on my team.
are you doing the questions, Melanie?
Well.
Or you want me to do the questions?
She wrote the question.
You're, okay.
Melanie's on my team.
Okay, so Melanie, I'll do the questions. We got one.
2 groups of 4.
Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got,
One group of 5,
yeah,
like
so 2 groups of 4
and a group of
and 1 group of 5. Okay, all right. So let's just count off and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see what we got with that from there.
5.
So 1,
1,
2,
3,
4, 1,
2.
3.
1.
okay, great. So if everyone can kind of get 1s, 2s, and 3s, find an area. And we'll just kind of shift around, and then we'll start the trivia here. So,
And this is a great time if you need a.
yeah, we'll take a break. Maybe take a
Yeah,
5-minute
if you
break. We need
drink
to
out of the
use the
fridge
restroom.
or Whatever you need.
all right, twos. Twos, where are you? Chris? You want us to come to you, Chris?
Where's the 4s? Sadie, we can go over to Sadie.
Yeah.
Dawn, you a 3?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll come over.
Come over with you.
We're number 1, so we get.
You can sit in my.
I got it, brother. It's all you, buddy. Don't read my text.
Yeah, you've lived here your whole life, right?
That's right.
Not in the city limits. Never lived in the city limits.
You too.
I take that back. I lived in the apartments.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how, I guess so how does trivia work? I'll ask the question, you guys come up with the answer and write it down, right? You write it down and with your number on it, and then you have it in, and we'll read it off, but we're only gonna spend 25 minutes or so on this.
It's a luxury.
Anything, yeah.
Wanna bring your chair over?
Yeah.
Have a seat.
We're doing one at a time. You better sit down.
We're gonna go, I'm gonna ask one question, everybody's gonna get in a huddle and try to come up with what the answer is. We'll give you just a couple minutes and then we'll, you write them down, hand them in, and then I'll read them off. So it's
Stressing me
point them out. That kind of how I haven't played trivia for a long time, but.
Yeah, they had a little thing.
Okay, But I guess if you have it written down, you don't have to turn it in, you can just read it off. It's just you have to have it written down so that we know that's your final.
All right.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, no Googling anything.
No lifelines.
All right. All right, question number one. Question number one, if you get in the Clackamas at the Riverside Upper Launch in McIver Park, think about where that might get, and you paddle to the River Bend Lower Launch, what class of rapids will you experience?
Class 5.
I have no idea.
So from McIver Park, from the upper to the lower.
So it's from the upper to the lower bowl.
Oh, we got.
Yeah.
If you do 2 or 3.
I've been to a flop.
I told her to write it down.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess that's, they write it down.
Been so long since I rafted like the shoots.
I was chair of the county board and we were. It was one of we were trying to get.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have like how kind of rapids do you need to get the outfitters and then what? And the answer was. You need 5 times.
What does it go up to?
5 is kind of like going.
All right, did everybody write down the answer? What class of rapids?
Yeah.
All right, if you wrote it down, so you can't change it. All right, why don't we go around? 2. 2.
3.
2 is the right answer.
Oh.
Here are you guys.
2.
Okay. Okay, next question. What was this you might know this easily. What was the first hydroelectric power plant built on the Clackamas River?
Is that the Bonneville Dam?
First hydroelectric power plant. And I did the best I could on these, so if you think I've got a wrong answer, somebody can prove it. I did an email her, I should.
Oh, she was.
It's usually.
I had fun coming up with questions. All right, does everybody have a guess?
Sure.
First hydroelectric power plant? Did you have one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Evan, you guys have one?
Oh, River Mill?
It was Casadero. So what are you guys' numbers?
Or just a diversion dam?
3?
Yeah. 3 and 1.
Okay.
We have to research it, but yeah, it's not easy.
It said that it was Casadero Dam was built in 1903 and they called it a hydroelectric power plant, so. You can prove me wrong, go for it, but, okay, question number 3. Where could you see a double bucking event? Double bucking.
Is that the NFR up here?
Questions you guys
are.
Really good. Oh my God. Estacada. Double bucking event. Is that like a horse riding event maybe, or deer riding, or it's
That's funny.
Okay, everybody ready?
No.
No? One more minute or half a minute.
10 seconds.
10 seconds, okay. Yeah, the faster we go, the more questions we get. You got it?
We should.
No,
Okay,
got nothing.
you got nothing? Yes.
Is it? Oh.
Okay.
Timber.
When you have a big saw, you're like-
that was good, Melanie. Oh, my tricky.
All right,
Gotcha.
okay, so what numbers?
What, everyone except what you guys are
Number
2?
Timber.
You guys are really
Yes.
Oh,
Good.
you guys-
I know, for number 2.
They're gonna come on strong at the end here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That was a great event, the Timberfest.
For the group 2.
Is it a law question?
Peter wants a log question.
Yeah, that's a whole dental
Let's
question.
name the 4 types of fish that, or as many as you can. We'll give you a point for each one you can name. How about that? 4 types of fish that anglers can find in Estacada Lake. Oh yeah, I said 1 point per correct answer.
Oh, so this is a 4-point,
So You
right?
could get 4.
You could get
points.
4 points, team 2.
Chris knows, right?
Chris is Chris a fisherman here, him and Peter?
He's got a boat.
You know, he's got a boat, so yeah, there's a boat, so.
All right, as soon as you're done, let me know.
I don't know. I don't know.
4 types of fish in Estacada Lake. You guys done?
Okay.
All right, who else is done? 10 seconds.
Got trout.
Tuna maybe up there, like halibut, you know, huh?
Point. All right, let's start with you guys.
Trout, salmon, steelhead, and lamprey.
Ooh, steelhead. Okay, how about if I call them out and if you got them?
Yeah.
But see, is lamprey a fish? Because I didn't put lamprey down. I don't know that you fish for lamprey.
It's not.
Okay.
Because it's not on my list.
It's not on your list. Okay, here's my list. You can get 4 points. Steelhead, Chinook salmon, cutthroat trout or rainbow trout in Estacada Lake.
That's just.
Yeah.
I guess
salmon
I'm
work.
gonna
Yeah,
do
we-
one.
we
That
give
would
you
give
some.
you one.
So
I'll
if
give
you-
a point.
Named each, if you named one, you can have maximum 4 points. So just tell us how many of those
So
that
if
you
you,
had. the
yeah,
honor
if you
system.
had both of the kinds of trout, we'd give
Yeah.
you 2, but if you just said trout, you get 1 point. So point for trout, point for salmon, point for steelhead.
I'm not sure.
All right. You got 2. What number
You got 2.
You're 1 and you got 2 points.
Is there 5?
All right, number 2 group. How many did you get?
2. Oh, 3? Yeah,
3.
3.
Honor system. okay.
Better check Peter over there. Is it a legal fish?
3. You got 3? Group number 4. 3, okay.
Ooh, we got it. Oh.
Right.
Okay, we got a little more time.
Okay, all
You guys
right.
are doing pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, where can a river rat get in, quote unquote, river rat, get in the Clackamas River upstream from Estacada? There's a few different places and so you just have to come up with one, but where can a river rat get in? the
Is there any
Clackamas
hints for them to think about, you know, like,
River?
does that give it away like the waterfront? Is it the Nitra beaver,
Well, that's part of the question. It was a river rat. Where can a river rat get in the Clackamas River upstream from Estacada? Oh, I do have a hint. Should I give him a hint?
yeah, I think a hint, you know, I see a lot of, you know, I see no hints over there. Oh,
I got 3, but if you can come up with one, I'll give you.
the
a point.
maximum 3, but, right? If you know 3, yeah, write down 3. Yeah, yeah. Because Sadie's might be a true time fisherman. I see like, look at her like over there. That's the way up.
Okay, 10 seconds. To write up to 3 down.
We gotta have the names of them.
Yeah.
You're gonna give you the location.
Like milepost marker.
Coordinates or something here, like.
Okay, you guys want to go
Okay.
first?
No, team 2?
Oh, I don't know the names of them.
All right, how about you guys?
I know where they are.
You got Fish Creek. No.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably a technical. It,
It has a slide going.
oh, fish, it was, okay, well. These are close, like in the area, so maybe I should go, I'll tell you
Promontory.
what I got,
Yeah.
and then you see if you guys
Promontory.
match it up. Moore Creek,
Yeah.
Moore Creek.
is that the one by Indian Henry?
No, that's closer.
Okay, hole in the wall
Gotcha.
and sandstone.
Was Hole in Wall bar here? Yeah,
Sandstone is Indian Henry.
Okay, well,
man.
all right.
This is,
Everybody
yeah, I think I give everyone a point here. Yeah, this was. Now we know we got river rats up here, so.
like it kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob's old.
Yeah.
let's give everyone a point. Yeah.
Because those were all boat access sites that are managed by PGE, but you probably could just jump in the river anywhere, but that's where they.
Okay, okay.
There's one where the car wash comes in.
All right.
Oh, you guys are all-
Wooden slide.
I'm gonna skip that one. 'Cause it's kind of boring. How about this one? Which professional disc golf association tournament is held at MacIver Park each year? Don't say it too loud or they'll hear you.
Oh,
disc
that is a
golf.
great amenity to have up here, huh?
So we have like the best disc golf in the world from what I
Yeah,
hear. And
it's a world renowned tourist, it's a world renowned tourist attraction there. Huh? Yeah. I hear you a disc golfer or is there, you're probably a competitor in there.
All right,
Make up some.
anybody got it written down?
Disco.
The Oregon.
Yeah, National Disc Golf
Mhm.
Let's just.
I'm just gonna-
All right, you guys know?
Hey Heidi, what's the answer?
The NDG.
Beaver State Fling is correct. Did anybody else get Beaver State Fling?
No.
Okay.
No.
Great, okay.
Three's taken. Oh, wow, starting to push a little bit out there, you know.
Give me a
That's
3-pointer.
Oh, chance to,
All right. Name 3 critical facilities that were built in the 1960s in Estacada. And I didn't know what to call them, but they're in use today.
and they're still standing.
They're still standing. They're facilities that we need. And they were built in the 60s. I don't mean like infrastructure. I don't mean like,
Yeah.
I don't mean like.
Not like wastewater treatment.
I don't
yeah,
mean
or
like,
but you gotta have it for like families, maybe kind of like thing, would you say like,
it could be
Yeah, yeah.
infrastructure, it could be
Could be
a
infrastructure.
building that's in use that was needed, built in the 60s, not a private home, but something like a facility.
this facility was just built a few years ago here, right?
This was just.
Yeah, this one was only maybe 5 or 10 years old that we're in here.
Not the grocery store. I don't know when the grocery store was built.
The liquor store.
The trails.
The trails.
There is
That might have been before the 60s.
The liquor store. Looks like a 60s era.
Critical.
All right, 10 more seconds.
So there's just some-
Yeah.
All right, this one I might have thrown them off on this too.
That's okay.
They'll have to prove it, I guess. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, should I just say them out and you can decide if you got them? Okay, in 1962, Estacada High School was built. In 1963, the wastewater treatment plant was built.
Okay.
And in 1964, the fire station was built.
Oh, okay.
Finally group 2 together.
Group 2, we know we got 3. Okay,
You got all 3. Whatever you go.
one's pushing and the one goes into the lead here.
Before we got 2.
You got.
Group 4 got 2.
And group
And
3.
got
Okay.
Okay, so
Right.
we're just 3-1-4-2. Wow, close race here. Very close race here. What's the winner get for next year? Or they gotta bring back here or something, you know? Huh? Yeah, yeah,
That's a good question. All right, I have, I think this should be the last one.
okay.
Okay, all right.
Oh.
Where was the Estacada Fire Station located before it was at its current location?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough question. I mean, it's
Because we've had multiple.
you
fire
have
stations.
over the years, yeah, it's and to be,
We've had a lot of fires.
yeah, the wilderness fires, and it's one of the things we're talking about with the
Yeah,
public awareness, you know,
Yeah.
building that out in the future here.
and not only in the forest, we've had some doozies of fires in
In this town?
town too, yeah.
Melanie, you guys are talking about maybe a new fire station here in the future?
We are talking about maybe a new fire station,
It would be.
but where was it at
Yeah.
just before it was here? Just before it was.
Was it up
Here.
by the mill, maybe up there, you know?
Hmm.
No, was it over in
Okay,
the,
everybody wrote down something?
All right.
Okay, go. City Hall. That is the correct answer.
Yeah.
City
City Hall.
right here?
Yes,
And right, so in the sixties, it was City Hall.
it was still here, because this was built in the thirties.
Yeah.
Where do you think it went between here and there?
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was here. City Hall and the fire station were in City Hall. And then they built that, the current station in the sixties and moved over there. All right, so which groups got a point? Number one is 10,
Group
Okay.
2.
2 has 8.
Okay,
Three.
you got it?
Got it?
Okay, 11.
Oh.
Oh,
And team
4?
number four?
No,
No? Okay,
8.
all right, team number 3.
These are 3. All right,
All right.
congratulations. 3. There you go.
Hopefully I did not, I have some other fun ones here, but.
That's great. Great. Congratulations. Rick.
All right.
That was awesome.
I think they handed them.
Good feed.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't.
Oh, Dawn the ringer.
Oh, Dawn knows this stuff.
Next
Next year.
time, do that. Trying to come up with a question for, the Safari Club, but I couldn't come up with any.
Poker game related?
Yeah.
There you go.
I got shut down due to illegal gambling.
Illegal gambling.
The giant polar bears.
Where did all this stuff?
What's next on the
Next,
list?
next, we're gonna go into just really going through those 5 strategic goals that, I really saw after interviewing the council and hearing you guys participate there. Talk about that and then I'll go through them and then we'll just go back to each one. We know there's some things that Melanie and I and the staff know that were on your 2023 goals. Those will carry over. We'll put them in the action plan there, but as we go back, after we get done going through them, we'll go back to each goal again and just look if there's anything else you feel as the council that needs to be included underneath that strategic goal there, right? And again, I think the trivia was great. I just wanted to share like something to think about when we talked about how do you engaging youth in activities or participating. One of the things that libraries are really important in our community. They're important from an entrepreneurial standpoint. They're important for computer access and really thinking about what I shared with Melanie, Michelle, like Mount Angel does a really creative thing with their library team. They actually do trivia at some of the local breweries in once a week, right? So really getting the city out to know more and engage with the youth. So as we think about that communication strategy as you come through, how can you interact and build that interface with the public more and more as you go forward there? So with that, we'll start the strategic goals. And again, go ahead to the next slide there, Sadie. They really what I try to have the council think about is again where you're going, right? And what is that story when people want to live in your community and how you're messaging in that to the citizens, to representatives within the state or federal government, or businesses, right? What is that vision? And you as the leaders of that community understanding it, like we just talked about, whether it's attracting a business to your community or it's having the right type of parks, right? And you're talking to citizens and hey, in 3 years, we're looking to start a sports park area, right? But you've identified those things, right? And that's also beneficial as you go forward, looking for resources. Every city I work with is strapped with trying to find resources, right? And we can only put so many homes on, but we have to find other good revenues that come in to help the city grow and maintain from that standpoint there. So really thinking about that. what I heard from you too is just the importance of planning on the city's future, Councilor Strobel brought up, and and everyone kind of touched on it, but really understanding, you'll see one of the goals is where you're growing, how you're going to grow in the next 5 years, right? And managing that growth, but also understanding like the capacity and the support that you're going to do it, right? So what's real impressive about the city staff when I talk to them is you have a wealth of fabric and knowledge, institutional knowledge, right? But as you're kind of going to be bringing on the wastewater treatment plant, you're going to need staff, right? And I'll give you an example, like Sadie, she's doing 3 jobs here, right? So like recorder, HR, you're a city of 30 some employees now, right, Melanie?
About 30.
And you don't have an HR person, right? So you got to start thinking about like how that is going to transition in the next 5 years and really thinking about financially and physically, right? Like, what's that look like? And, yes, you're going to have more revenue coming on. You've had homes, you've had growth, but like just how that kind of growth is managed and how you make sure that you have the necessary resources to operate it and meet those goals that you're looking for, right? So I think that you'll see that come out of that too is important there. So, and just your staff does a fantastic job, which you all know. I saw that you have a great interaction with your staff, and that's something that's really impressive. When I see that in a community, you're all on the boat in the same direction, and you're having really good transparency, and you have the same goals in mind there. So let's go to the next slide, Sadie. So the one thing that really keeps coming out is infrastructure, right? So really understanding and enhancing the foundation growth of your infrastructure here, right? So I think there was a clear, understanding the wastewater treatment plant and getting that done by 2026, right? But really making sure that we communicate that to, regular check-ins, updating, making sure the community understands that it's on track, on progress, right? That transparency is something that's important that I heard from you as a counselors. We talked about the water system. The water reservoir, really looking about where that is going to be in the future, moving it forward. And that's again falls underneath your infrastructure goal, right? Making sure you got the resources for that, make sure you got the technical assistance, you start to design work, moving those things forward, right? So that's important from that standpoint. I think when we circle back, like any other essential infrastructure projects that could be potential that we might not have talked about in 2023, or that you might consider. I think your wayfinding is a good opportunity to really put that in here, making sure that you come up with your wayfinding, your signage, how you get into your downtown, how you navigate around here. That's an important project to think about. The mini parks update plan, doing some studies, thinking about where you could put a larger park, regional park, where would that be from that standpoint, and understanding that there. And then lastly, I'm really impressed that where you're at as a council, like now's the time to utilize some of your existing URA funds and really study a new URA. Cities, again, you're challenged in finding the revenue, right, to be able to do infrastructure, right? And because the way Oregon's ORS statutes are established, there's not a lot of funding opportunities for cities, right? So really thinking about that urban renewal and studying that new area and how you could connect your downtown into the old town areas, right, where the mill site, what's that look like, right? And it's all, and from that urban renewal is a great way to fund your infrastructure, right? Parks, water lines, streets, those kind of improvements, which are essential to think about, but capturing those dollars and keeping them in your city is important to think about. And as you go forward. And so I think really thinking in 2024 over your next 5 years is really studying that new area. You can utilize some of your existing urban renewal funds to do that work and build a new urban renewal plan and bring that forward. But that would be something to really think about as you go forward in the future here. So goal number 2, really this one we spent a lot of time on this morning, right? Talking about communication, right? Really developing an implementation of community plans, talking about having town hall events, really increasing, the awareness of ongoing projects and then how you engage the younger community here. That's important, right? And the youth today are going to be the leaders in the future, right? And, thinking about how maybe you can have some youth on your committees, ad hoc, positions, but how we get the folks from the high schools, how we, bring in young entrepreneurs within your community. That's important, right? To think about that. And again, I think 2024 is a great opportunity for you to come forward with a communication strategy and share that and get your feedback. And what's that look like? You all have wonderful, excellent ideas. And to start that, some are going to be wins, some aren't going to be, but as you kind of transition through this new rule, what you're being known for in Estacada, right? Build that message, right? And then continue to build on that. And I think, the mayor, you brought this up, COVID we kind of stopped for a little bit, right? So re-engaging those activities and having those events. I mean, you were known for the Timber Festival out here. I mean, those are important things as you think about creating what that community looks like here from that standpoint there. So let's go to the next one, goal 3. Economic vitality, really understanding, continue to promote your industrial, your downtown, we've talked about that, considering like how you grow, building an economic development commission, building a strategic plan for that. Those all important. You're at that time in your city where you really need that. It's a great opportunity to kind of mend your downtown, your main street, and your industrial, and have a good representation, and have that commission work for you, right? And have good, business leaders that, from small businesses to large businesses, that represent your area, right? And build that awareness and build that strategic plan, and have that plan come to council, support that plan, right? And be able to build, when you're out in the community and you're talking to someone, you're like, for example, here's what we have for a large business, or here's what we're doing for downtown. We have a paint improvement program, right? Or, here's some incentives that will help you move those areas forward. So that's important in the city, and you're at the size and time where you need to really think about moving forward with that there. So goal number 4, again, this is really the balanced growth management, right? Just really preserving and building that vision, what you want, right? And understanding where you're going, how are you going to manage that? Financially, what do you need as you grow over the next, 5 years, right? What's that revenue look like coming in 5 years, right? From now, like, and what would your staffing needs need to be as you grow to be able to manage those resources, right? So that's important to think about, right? And making sure that, the timing and operations, I've seen cities that, everyone wants to do a aquatic park, right? Pass a bond, but then no one understands the operating cost of it, right? So those are things like, as you talk about having a sports complex or sports park, right? Those are great. They're great attractions, but that's something, as you think about your growth management, is then, okay, how are we going to maintain that, right? How much is it going to cost to operate it, right? So just now's the time to do that and really explore that, right? It's not that it can't be done. It's just thoughtful, mindful. It's just like business planning out, but doing that for a city and thinking that over the next 5 years from that standpoint. And then the last goal, which I heard clearly from everyone from staff and from the council, is just public safety, right? It's so important, from, policing to the fire department. I think you have a great relationship, what I hear from all of you here with your fire department looking to have a fire station in the future. And then just continue to build on that, right? And understanding like how you grow as a community with policing and fire, right? And I think now's the time to think about as you study that. And again, a lot of cities up here in the Portland metro region, everyone wants to have a police department, but then, understanding operation costs, right? And understanding what that model looks like, right? And being thoughtful of as you grow and you continue to do that. That's important. I know I live in Wilsonville. We have an excellent relationship with the sheriff's department. We got a really, an operating model that works really well for us and for our community, right? So I think, as you look at public safety and then around the fire station, the policing, but also thinking about you've gone through a natural disaster, right? And really understanding in the future, like how you have some hazard mitigation. Now's the time to think about that in the future. You've done training exercises, but making sure you do those in the future for the community. And it's a great way to engage the community too, through the schools, getting them involved and thinking about, hazard mitigation around their homes and with the forest area there. So, so those are the 5, really goals that talking to everyone here that kind of came out from you to, over the last couple of weeks. And again, I appreciate all your time. And what I really want to do now is just kind of take the time and go back through, we can go back to goal one and get your feedback on, we'll go back through and we'll take your notes from goal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll refine those and then we'll bring forward the final package for you here for 2024. So goal 1, infrastructure. So thoughts, anything else that, we've talked about today that you think is the council that we should underline in here? So. Counselor Hughes.
I know staff is going to be really focused on this, but I just want to make sure that we are one of our huge focuses on would be the completion and as timely manner as possible of the wastewater treatment plant, being that we were given some numbers the last council meeting and how imperative it is going to be that we complete this project on time, if not ahead of schedule. So just kind of those constant reminders of making sure that we are ahead of the game as far as, equipment that's going to be needed or permits and whatnot. So that's going to save the taxpayers a lot of money if we can stay ahead. And I want to make sure that that's a focus. And I know the city's, city staff's they know that that's huge. So, but as a council, I want to make sure that we're, being mindful of that and checking in and,
Sir Stroll.
Yeah, I want to agree with that. I think Councilor Hughes brought up a good, some good thoughts there. And are there any lessons learned from the Wade Creek Park? Because that's one that went behind and went long as well too. But what can we take from that and apply it to the wastewater treatment plan? I think that maybe there's some things there that we can do, be it something to help keep it on time or something to help keep the council/public engaged and informed of the process as well too. So there are no surprises.
Mike?
I'd like to see a focus on some of the projects that have been recognized as like failed intersections that keep on coming up in traffic impact studies, and making a big push to put get the traffic control devices in those intersections that are failing. I had on the tip of my tongue there. You just touched on it, and then I lost it. I'll come back to it. It'll come back to me.
Jonathan?
This one doesn't necessarily include us financially, but I would like to stay on the forefront, supporting the school district on getting this school built sooner than later. In reference to like our water treatment plant, those numbers increase significantly on our taxpayer base. So maybe what can we do as a city council to encourage people to at least be read up before they make a decisions on something that impacts all of our kids going forward?
Have you done a joint session with the school district? Have you guys done it? Okay.
Yeah, there's been tons of that, but I think there's still a lot of pushback because everybody's worried about what it's going to cost them and so on and so forth. But if we could just really communicate that it's going to cost more down the road and that it's a need, it's been established. I mean, the research that Superintendent Carpenter has provided everybody is beyond more than reasonable, in my opinion, to make a smart decision here. But what can we do to support it?
Mayor. He touched on the school, and that was a good one. I think we have had a lot of contact with school. I'd like to have a lot more. Carpenter's pushing a big train over there, and it's not going to be easy. And I think they need to understand that we're in support of that plan. But at the same time, I think one of our biggest partners in this area, we've lost contact with them over the last few years. And I'd like to see if we can reunite that. And that's PGE. We used to be more, in sync with PGE. And over the last few years, a lot of people have retired up there, I understand, and a lot of people have left the company. But it would be nice to reignite that so we know what's happening with PGE, because they are one of our biggest partners and they are all over this area and they supply jobs all over this area. So maybe if we could get them back on that front page.
Mary, that's a great point. I mean, especially with the dam and
Yeah.
they should definitely be on your, if you set up an economic development commission, be on that commission, right? Because great employer, understanding, it's part of your infrastructure, your electricity here. And it could be a great partner in community benefit. They do a lot with communities, right? That's a very important, that's a great suggestion there. So
They just went out to fill Annette Matson's position. So I don't know if there was an interim person between her retirement and now, but that job was posted 6-8 weeks ago. So hopefully there'll be someone back in that's re-engaged.
Okay. Good.
yes,
I remembered what I was gonna say, to Paul's point about, lessons that could be learned from the Wade Creek project is when we take on the wastewater treatment plant, having a point of contact with the general contractor for weekly meetings, once construction is underway, to set goals, understand what the goals are for the next 30-day period, get updates on things in real time that are being delayed, what the cause of the delays are and what their plan is to fix it, and just not have meetings with them every 3 months. I don't know how often they were with the contractor for Wade Creek, but once things are physically under construction, weekly or bi-weekly meetings and getting updates on progress and stuff like that, that'll help you keep your finger on the pulse of the project and recognize when things are getting behind a lot sooner. If you're not seeing them but every few months, and then all of a sudden they say, well, we can't get this, and you just don't have any feedback on it, and you don't know what the delay is until you have that meeting. So I think as often as you can have meetings with them as possible would be good.
thank you. I think that's a great point, sir. So maybe a monthly update from on the wastewater treatment plant, something like that could be an action item that could come out of that there. So it'd be good. John or Jerry?
I guess mine's more of a question, but this project, since it's going to be going into the existing area, the public works area, you're on site there, right, Chris? So you're going to be in contact and constantly there watching, seeing what they're doing. So that makes me feel a lot more comfortable about this project moving forward, rather than at Wade Creek where, we didn't have, anybody really on site during that part. So that, like I said, that was just a question, more of a comment, but it makes me feel good knowing that you're going to be on site and you're going to be in the area most of the time. That makes me feel better about this project moving forward at a timely manner.
Mayor?
Another thing I want to add in there is I think our council overall is not as knowledgeable about what you do, and what everybody in the city does. So what I'd like to see going forward is that we make a time for counselors to actually tour the facilities like we once did back in the old days. Tour your facility and you go through as much as you can with us that we can comprehend. And then going forward, when we're out there talking with the public, we have a better knowledge of what it is you're facing, so that we're not just putting things out there that are, all over the board, that we're actually putting fact out there, that you've taught us your expertise enough that we can comprehend with the people exactly what's going on, so that we're not just, shooting off a cuff here. I think we'd feel more comfortable and you'd feel more comfortable knowing that we have better knowledge of how the system works. And maybe we can institute that in the city council in some fashion to take these tours. And then the other thing I had was on economic development, pursuing companies with packages. Mike hit on that, offering some kind of incentives to pull in companies. But my question would be, can we, putting together an economic development group, send them out with a package and say, this is what we have. Can we interest you in coming? Reach out and grab these companies versus waiting for them to come to our front door. Because obviously, you said it, somebody said down here, that most people don't know what Estacada is really all about. They have no clue what we have in our industrial field. They don't even know. So if there's a way in that economic perspective that we could reach out to companies, find a list from the county or however we go about this of companies that are interested in moving or building for the first time, and give them what we have available, whatever it is we put together, to offer these companies. And maybe that way we can adopt it into our area easier and faster than waiting for them to come to our front door.
I love it where you're going because that's, you know, having that Economic Development Commission, right, that they will help you recruit, you know, whether it's the industrial or the downtown area, right? Having a good representation of, say, 12 to people on, you know, on that committee. We're kind of jumping up to the economic development one, but the benefit of that is, let's say PGE's on your Economic Development Commission, right? They know the available lands, they know the available properties in your downtown market. They may know that you're looking for a grocery store. Those conversations, right, with that representative, that happens with those business folks or someone that's looking to come in your, is looking at those areas, right? And that's important to have, right? So then they know that, okay, there's X amount of square footage available downtown, or there's this business park here, and they have the power and the capacity, and it's exponential is helping market your community, right? And having that is, to your point, a way to build forward on that there. So I love it idea. It's something that you should do. So Mike?
Yeah, just communicating how streamlined the planning department is in Estacada. I was talking to a developer the other day that was bragging about getting a subdivision approved through the process of getting a piece that was zoned as one way and getting it switched over in an approved subdivision. He was bragging about it taking less than 3 years. And I said, that's crazy. Stuff like that happens in Estacada, and like projects get completed in less than a year. Like not just the approval to get started, but the construction going through. We're working on a project that went through that whole process and it'll be completed in less than a year. And he was shocked by it. I think the more we could communicate that message out to people and just let them know how business friendly Estacada is and how easy it is to work with our planning department and how well the staff's doing there. I mean, it's just hands down. I work with a lot of different building departments, and our planning department is, and I'm not being biased, it's the best one in anywhere in the area to deal with. So the more we could communicate that out there, how easy we are to work with, I think it would bring a lot more people into.
That's excellent. See, I think that move us to goal number 2 here. Building on that communication engagement, right? It's like talking about that communication strategy, right? And back to what the mayor and what you're talking about, Mike, is just a great opportunity to display how well staff does their job, right? And if you want to be an Estacada, we can find you a way to get to yes to get you permitted. And just getting that message out, like, you know, such and such, you know, here was our time frame compared to these other areas. That's attractive. When a business comes in or a builder, they want to know how long it's going to take us, time is money, right? And just being able to clearly message that. And again, the staff, I see it too. Your staff does a fantastic job of expediting, and that is something that is appreciated of in today's environment. So building that into communication, messaging that at a town hall, showing, you know, how well your planning community does here is important, right? And I'll stop there. And Jonathan?
I was just saying we should also highlight kind of like, you know, we got fiber optic in town now. We need to highlight some of the more modern amenities that we've recently got too. Especially when we're looking at getting like out in the industrial area and places like this filled. And as like you're talking about sending this package to get to them before being referred to us kind of thing. But at the same time, I think we need to make a list of shortcomings. I mean, realistically, if Amazon was to approach us or something like that and say they want to build a distribution warehouse or a data center, do we have the power grid for it right now? Do we have the water like rights or whatnot? Are we piped to be able to fit that? There is some shortcomings that we face infrastructurally speaking to be able to provide for some of these bigger people that would offset the tax cost especially.
Yeah, I think it's great. You definitely want their communication, especially with AI and how fast everything's going. You'd want them on your EDC. That would be helpful there too. Paul?
I think
Hi.
Sorry, Elaine, I didn't
No,
see you.
I just wanted to cover what Jonathan addressed what you were. We pretty regularly get requests from the county economic development, and they ask for that specific information. So we know exactly how much power is available to the industrial park and the water and sewer capacity which, you know, as I'm sure you guys are all aware is a big stumbling block right now, and water will continue to be a stumbling block. So we have that information and we do send it out regularly to the county.
Can we force PG, could we force PG's hand a little bit with that?
It is,
though?
the power is not the holdup.
It's water,
It's water.
water and lack of natural gas.
Natural gas, I know.
Yep.
is a Big one. Can we
Mhm.
track that?
Can we track how many people
No,
are
attract.
attract natural?
Yeah, well, they're working on water rights currently. Natural gas is just it's a cost burden of
Yeah.
bringing it out from where it's at.
It's like 80
It-
million.
It basically follows growth. So as they bring their services out from the city, it just feeds itself coming out to the rural areas.
But
So,
But we can, when we're looking at recruiting businesses, we're looking at recruiting businesses that don't need that. So things like the construction, there's a lot of different construction related firms down on the industrial campus, and they don't need the heavy water burden. They don't need the heavy wastewater burden. They don't need the heavy electricity or natural gas in order. And so that's something that, we just need to be aware when we're developing those marketing materials. This is the kind of firms that will fit within what we have capacity for.
And there is a possibility we can interest natural gas in here. I had many discussions with them over the years, trying to get them out here. And at one time, they were kind of iffy about coming out here because there wasn't a lot of demand. But because our industrial is growing at the rate it is that it would take one customer to initiate that. They're 14 miles out with a high pressure line. And now that Malala has went off the grid as far as natural gas is considered, they're really interested in branching out. So this could be a good time to approach them with a new idea. So maybe something to keep in your forethought.
Don, do you know if they open up ditches for that? Is that all directional drilling? Both.
Well, yeah, they'll do, most of it will be directional boring. But anytime you have a utility crossing or anything like that, it has to be done. And it's pretty deeply done.
Yeah.
We'll probably follow the same path. You have one of your main piece of fiber, one of your cottonless and the wall, stuff like that.
Okay, back to goal 2, community engagement here. Any additional thought? Oh, Paul, did you have?
I was gonna say on this one here, this is one that the communication is a big challenge, I think, for a small town like ours. Weekly newspaper with, I think, the subscribership declining over time as well too. No radio station, no TV to advertise on. It's always been a challenge for at least small businesses to get the word out on things, and how much more a challenge for the city as well to get information out. And right now, I think the city does a good job, but the weight of it is on the department heads to get the word out, or it's on Melanie's shoulders or Elena's shoulders to get the word out on things. And I would rather them doing the jobs that they're good at doing, is managing things here. And is it possible to get a person, a full-time, part-time, someone like that could be a communication director or something along those lines, that could handle not just getting the word out, but also helping department heads communicate, helping the different areas, maybe setting up a plan for each area as well too, to get on a regular basis of communication, so we can keep the city and the public engaged together.
I think that's a, fantastic idea there. We've talked about it with the staff, and you're at that point where you either got to outsource or part-time, or maybe it's an IGA with another city, and really building that communication strategy. Like I said, I think, getting out ahead with newspaper articles, magazine articles, some press releases by the mayor and stuff, now's the time to do that stuff with you and the council. And I think staff, to your point, is let them do their job, bring someone that's an expert in that area and helping with the messaging on that there. So, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'd like to second you on that, Paul. I think it's time that we look at incorporating somebody that's what their focus is. I definitely agree with you. But I also think we need to, and this is going to be unpopular, I think we need to modernize. I've been beating this horse dead, but social media is where they're interacting, and we need to put the fire out where the fire's at. We can't keep being archaic in our approaches and like mumbling amongst ourselves or speaking to a group of 10 people sitting in the audience if they're not communicating to us from that platform. So although I don't think we need to engage like in those posts, like how we've avoided that, I think that professionally speaking is sound. But I do think, and I know you've been working on this, But I do think that we need to be more in the front. We need to look at what other cities are doing, reach out, and even take a step beyond that and go a little bit further with it to get to our people. And then on that, some ideas, right? Not just coming with problems here, but solutions is, can we encourage or ask some of these local businesses or community or some of the community to help incentivize people to be involved or to come to these things where we're presenting this? You know, can we ask for a gift card to dinner or something, ask for donations or people from the other, you know, parts of this downtown community and these that our community is patroning to help incentivize being at town halls, being at these places where we're trying to discuss the information relevant to them. You know, like what can we do to involve more of our, not only the commercial side of our community, but then the residents, and how can we entice it? Right.
Yeah, so I've seen some cities, to your point there, they'll, you know, here's have a town hall, here's a $5 gift card, you can go to the downtown business, right? To get people to show up, right? Get their voice out, get them heard, and it's a good way. That's a win-win for the downtown area, win to get people to come and talk. So it's a great idea you talk about there. Anything else on the community, there, Mike?
Just adding a seat for the last one for engaging the younger generation, possibly adding a seat to the committees or making one of the seats a requirement that it's filled by a member of one of the local schools. Maybe having a spot with the city council where a student body president or someone from the student government is represented on the city council, comes and sits with us. Here's what's going on, gives their feedback as part of the council or an opportunity like that, or even if it's just on some of the other committees, making a spot open for students so they can be represented on those committees and have feedback, have an opportunity to give their perspective on things. I think it'd be good.
I want to get up and give you a big hug because, the cities that are embracing the younger generation, right? And it's tough to engage in, but doing that, I think having a ad hoc position we've talked about it. I think it's really a strong thing to do. I mean, again, I'm a big believer in the youth, right? They're going to be the leaders of our cities and our communities in the future. And, Millie and I even talked about the committees or part-time staff helping in with record keeping and stuff. It's a good job, you learn, but also learning about how government operates and works from that standpoint. And I think it's, if you're not a liaison to a committee as a counselor, I think that'd be a great step to make. And then also thinking about bringing youth in on those committees, right? And their voices, and what they're hearing, how fast technology is changing. And that can be inspirational to think about as you grow as a city and your vision from that standpoint. So thank you for that suggestion. Jerry?
Just basically to add on to that, former counselor had a plan in place to create a youth council and have one representative at each of the city committees, and then they would have so they would go to those meetings at the city committees, and then they would also have their own monthly council meeting, basically where they talk it out amongst themselves. And that was an idea from the past. That was a great idea, and I wish it would have gone further, because we could be so much further ahead on that process right now if it could have gone further in the past.
What they say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time's now, right? Yep. Melanie, do you want to talk about the Citizens Advisory Committee a little bit? What you've been thinking about there? I think this kind of ties in with the community engagement goal here.
I could talk a little about, we could either call it Citizen Advisory Committee, or what I've heard it called is I wrote it down on one of these papers.
I said it wrong.
It's called the Citizen Academy.
Citizen Academy. This is a great thing to do.
And we run it, the City Managers Association, Oregon City Managers Association hired I was a rare student or somebody to put together a template, and they're really pretty simple, and it wouldn't be that hard to run. I don't think it'd be that burdensome on each department, because they just have to do one, but you have maybe 15 people that sign up, so they're consistently there all along, and it's not random people where you're not really making an extended connection through how the whole city runs. So you have people apply, and then once a month we have a meeting, and go over, like you said, go on a tour of the public workshop and learn about what Public Works does, or we go to the library and learn about what the library does. We have one night would be dedicated to land use planning and the community development department and training these. So each year you have like a group of 15 people or so, however many think we could manage. We come in, bring them dinner. If I think maybe childcare is something we need to consider adding on. I think the school does that with some of their programs, but just really giving people who are interested a thorough understanding of what goes on in all of the city departments and help them to, I mean, I didn't know any of this before I came here. I had never thought about it. And then it's very confusing because it's not really intuitive sometimes about, what does Public Works do versus what do the plants do, and how many certifications those guys have to have. Like you work for a big city, you might work in water and you do this one thing all the time. While our crews, they do water and wastewater, or they do Public Works. I don't even know all of they do. So we could educate the community on, and people could maybe watch. If we had it on Zoom, they could watch, but we'd have a group that we're bringing through and building connections with, building relationships and educating and doing that, let them ask questions and answer back to them. And so that's something I wanted to do for several years, and just we haven't had the bandwidth, but really it comes down to prioritizing, because something has to drop off for this to move to the top. And I think it might be time right now for this to move to the top. So that's one thing that we had talked about. I think it
Yeah, I think
would
that
mean a lot of.
it's a great way to, whether it's youth or, middle, millennials or, seniors, or just to learn about the city, and if they want to be involved in a committee too, right? So just really understanding that, right, is a good way to recruit, because the challenge is a lot of cities is, people will be on a committee for 3 months, 4 months, and then they leave, and then you're back out trying to recruit again, right? So just bringing that awareness is just another one of those ways of communicating. So I think it's a great idea there.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be it wouldn't be indefinitely doing this. It's like 6 months, so 5 to 6 months. They
And then a
come
break.
once a month, and so it's a kind of a limited term commitment that people hopefully would be able to commit to. And yeah.
Great. Okay, moving to just recap on goal 3, if they're around economic growth, business opportunities, council feedback on goal 3 there. Anything else you'd like to see on that? Sure.
I like the idea of having an economic development committee. I just don't want it to take away from our downtown Estacada committee. I'd really like to stay in, if the decision is made to stay in the Main Street program, I would really like to stay in the Main Street program, but I wouldn't want to take away from the work that the downtown Estacada committee is doing. But I really do like the idea of having an economic development committee. I just I don't foresee that committee being an economic development committee. And I see an economic development committee not concentrating so much on what the downtown Estacada committee does.
What does your downtown committee do for you now?
They basically their main thing is the downtown, and they hold events in downtown. Like we have they do the 4th of July parade, they do the Oktoberfest event, they do help me,
Are they more like a chamber?
They're not a chamber. No, we have a separate chamber.
They are
but
the Main Street organization.
Yeah, they're tasked to be the Main Street, the Oregon Main Street program representatives here. And I don't know, I don't foresee that group being an economic development committee, but I don't want to miss out on what it is they do, helping to, get our downtown, thriving, and,
That's good input there. Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm assuming this is the place for it, because we had kind of briefly talked about like the sports complex and stuff like that. That's identifying the need of the community, right? We have a need for a 3rd elementary school. You can drive by and you can see all these kids and all these different things that we have. As somebody that's coached in the community, I could tell you one of the biggest struggles is having a place for practices for these kids, especially when inclement weather and stuff like that comes in. We don't have any kind of infrastructure other than what the school has to get these kids. So I've been doing a little bit of research on my own. I think this is the place to talk about it. John, is that correct?
I think this would like to, I mean, there's a couple spots for your sports complex. I think it's an infrastructure element that you need. It's also when, you know, businesses or folks looking to live in your city, it's also an attraction. So it's also, it's a secondary outlier that people want to see in your community, right? So it's that you have facilities, spots for their kids. So I'm happy to keep going and we'll put it underneath the infrastructure.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't.
You're fine. Keep going.
But we should look at LEDA funding, the local economic development funding. I know you're really, really good at securing grant stuff, Elena. And if we look at LEDA, to go to some of the problems that we've been having, to address some, you specifically spoke about operating costs, John, and how once we have this, then how do we manage it? Well, what we do is we go to this LEDA funding and we source, say, let's just use round numbers, okay, no official capacity here, but if we can source $2 million to support this, we can then entice private equity to get involved and they could take it from us from that. So we can support them up to $2 million, say for what it would cost them, say a $5 million complex. There is private equity that will take this on, at which point the city could work out lease agreements. There's options on the back end that you could get paid for property things. So it actually generate the city back income as well as addressing the need. But it's us doing the work in advance to attract private equity to be here to address these needs, if that makes sense. And I'm not talking about the thing that says you have to be 25% Hispanic and 30% Black, and no disrespect to that, but I'm talking about money that is sitting there on the table as it stands that other cities and other communities are taking to do stuff like this. So if we can be more aggressive in grabbing that, and we could put together a package to entice somebody to come here or to entice somebody in this community to build or to help us in that sense, then we could get this done, I think, one, faster, and two, it's involving the community and addressing our needs all at the same time. I mean, I think it's time to look at options.
Yeah, I think what you're kind of talking would be just, it could fall under economic development or infrastructure, really doing a feasibility study on where you would locate your sports park, what it would take to run it, and then go out and you could potentially do an RFQ, request for qualifications for people to operate it or think about that, right? So it's definitely something that you could either have it fall in your infrastructure and economic growth, right? Development here, and think about how that would move forward in the future. But you're at this point where you can do a feasibility study on it. So,
well, yeah, and it's enticing them to take on. We're just giving them government funded money for the project to ask them to then meet us and build a need for the community. And then after it's built, I mean, the operating cost is on the private entity. The city doesn't have anything other than that, except for your $2 million thing, you could get lease money for land or some kind of procurement for it. So there's options there that we could look into.
Okay, I don't know which one.
No, it's okay. You might also, if we're really considering the like really ramping up parks, consider a parks and recreation district, which would be on the ballot. You'd have funding through bonds and levies for that district. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be, to your point, like just a first good step would be kind of in your infrastructure and economic, just where would you locate it? What would be the feasibility? Who are some of the operators out there? What's the, and kind of do the exploration there. You have some great locations either within the city or maybe right outside the city to be thinking and exploring that. I know Medford does a sports park. They've outsourced that. There's probably other areas in the Portland metro region that do that. It's another recruitment area for your town to get families coming in and spend dollars into town here. So it's definitely a great goal, and we'll add it in here and bring that back here. So Melanie and then Mike.
Just real quickly, talking about how the value of the Downtown Estacada Commission and them being our Main Street group, and they do a fantastic job. And if we are going to consider, like, one of the goals might be to look at creating an economic development commission. I had put into the council goal update that we might want, instead of like converting DEC, because they seem to be on board with staying with Main Street now. And but we might want to consider converting or consolidating some of the committees, like infrastructure committee, like PGE has a spot on infrastructure, Reliance Connects has a spot on infrastructure. And that's part of, John and I were talking about this, how infrastructure development is part of economic development. And so if, maybe those folks would, some of them would be, I don't know how we'd consolidate but just to take some of the committees, like the infrastructure and.
I think
Or
they
with the
really
other one.
thinking about taking like your, part of economic development is really getting your infrastructure, right? Having, your water lines, your wastewater treatment plant, your parks, right? But also, having the infrastructure in your downtown too, right? So that really needs to be like part of your economic development, right? And I think sometimes cities get so many committees and then, but really having that voice. And also maybe thinking about merging your downtown, your infrastructure with your EDC, right? And it might be a little bit bigger, but maybe you have 2 representatives from your council that are on it, right? And that's really good because someone may be talking to someone who's on the downtown committee about an event. That brings awareness to maybe there's a business out in the industrial park that wants to sponsor it, or someone knowing that you're, that PGE knows you're looking at exploring potential new park area. They might know someone that, maybe we want to be a partner in that, right? So maybe think about merging a couple of these committees together and having staff bring that to you and then making some suggestions on what that new committee could look like moving forward. I think that's something to consider in 2024 there. So Mike.
I'm just gonna say, I think the river's a big attraction and brings a lot of people from outside the area. It's a big tourist thing. It'd be neat if we could come up with maybe an event in the summer, either a big float event that starts with like a festival around local restaurants, providing food and stuff like that, and then go right into the river. And another idea I had about the river would be like a shuttle service, like a watercraft shuttle service where people are able to go put in, float down river. And if there was a shuttle that would bring them back up into the area to get their vehicle back. And then they would naturally be hungry after spending a whole day on the river and come back through town. I think that'd be a pretty neat thing to bring people into town.
I'd definitely do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving forward. Goal 4 was really thinking, having a growth management, looking at your 5 years of, how you're going to continue to grow, doing some forecasting, a lot of times as cities, we just go, we roll right into budget season, here's next year, right? But what is it going to look like in 5 years, right? What's the revenue coming in? What are some expenses? Paul, you brought up, this is really important. And I think it's, just financially being, with good governors, thinking about that. I've shared it. I think Melanie, we've talked about it, something that the staff, we know staff, they have this can-do attitude, but we've heard today that it's really like, we need to kind of think about communications, HR, wastewater treatment plant. What's that look like as we grow in the future, right? And do some of those projections to make sure that we are able to bring that support on here to support your needs as leadership, right? So is there anything else around the growth management that you feel? We talked about code, Peter?
Yeah, I think it's helping the members of the community understand that if properties, whether it's inside or outside the city, and it's almost always outside, if it's inside our urban growth boundary, the only question that council is asked and answers is, can we provide urban services? And if the answer to that question is yes, and it's currently yes, then those people get to annex into the city and the city zoning is applied to the property. And then that's what determines what they can build there. And unless we reach a point where we're at a moratorium, and that's not something that the city imposes, that's something that someone like DEQ is like, all right, you're about to, I mean, they did this with Sandy. that's the only way that the council can say no to these projects. And then the other thing that I would hope that people understand, and I think this is going to be critically important if the school levy passes, is the difference between the assessed value of their house and property and the real market value. So in the historic Estacada neighborhoods, the assessed value, so the taxes we get versus the real market value of those homes, there's a huge difference. And when people read a ballot title and it's a 35 cents per thousand or whatever it is, they think my neighbor just sold their house for $450. And so it's like helping educate them that they're not paying it on the they're not paying it on the real market value, they're paying on the assessed value. And then the other piece is, and this, I did something similar with King City somewhat successfully, is the historic part of that city, some of them only pay a couple $100 in taxes. It's the new development that gives them all the services, makes it able to hire that police officer, extra police officer, or contract with the county. So it's the taxes don't reset at the point of sale. People seem to think they do, and then that becomes a new assessed value, and they don't. Unless you do something major to the house, the assessed value doesn't change. And it's the new construction that matters. So the difference between a $400,000 house and an $800,000 house is a big difference. Whereas if an existing house becomes worth $800,000, that doesn't matter. And I don't think people necessarily understand that. And if there's some way that we can get that out, whether it's a school or any other levy, it becomes easier to pass because people understand, particularly people in fixed incomes. And then to the extent that people are saying, well, why don't we have these amenities? It's like, all right, here are the tools that we can use to get them, but we need your help. So if looking out at the horizon, thinking about what the school district needs, and then regionally, the buildable land inventory in the region, which is really low, that people want single family houses and they're going to move here. And I'm seeing increased NIMBYism at the meetings. And then the next thing that happens is you start getting appeals to land use board of appeals. And then it's not as easy for developers to do business here. So it's kind of, there's some domino effects that could happen. And I just think if we get out there with kind of some education and proactively try and prevent some of that disinformation, it would be beneficial to not just us, but any other special district that's doing business here.
I wanted to find what NIMBYism is, just in case. Does everybody know what it is? Okay, I just wasn't sure if everybody, we get into government speak and sometimes people don't understand what these terms mean.
Not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard.
Right. It's just, it's acknowledging that people have bought a house here, usually a single family detached house, and then when a developer wants to build more, they're like, no, we've seen enough of those. And so it's like, how do you help people understand that, particularly in a housing market like ours, where houses have rapidly appreciated in price, that it's the new houses that get built are paying substantially more than the older ones, and that allows everybody to hopefully better services.
Sounds like a nice town hall for the county tax assessor to attend for guys. Paul.
That was a good lead in. Thinking about being more proactive about that. Is there a way that we can get ahead of this? Because right now it seems like from a council standpoint, I believe you said we've got a quasi judicial role that we just, does the code say this? Does the thing line up? Yes, we can do it. And then our engineering study says the wastewater treatment plant can handle this new subdivision. It can handle the water. But can we get in front of that? Can we find out, we know the capacity of the wastewater treatment plant. We know our current capacity of the water plant. So at what point then do we draw the line? I'd like to find a way that we as a council can feel more comfortable with any subdivisions come in, any new buildings that come in, and then we know what that cap is. Is there a way that we can be forward thinking on this? And then we know, all right, yeah, absolutely, this subdivision can come in. Sure, the engineering report says it is. That's what we've always gone by. But we know that we can, our wastewater treatment plant can handle another 1,000 homes or something like that.
So we address capacity not at the time of subdivision, but at the time of annexation. And I think that's very confusing to a lot of people because there's a very large period of time sometimes between when a land is annexed and when it comes before us for a subdivision application. And so when they've annexed, we've already addressed the capacity. And so that also is something we're trying to address, that it can be very confusing in that the capacity is during annexation, not during subdivision.
But can we look at our wastewater treatment plant now and say right now we're handling this many homes.
Mm-hmm.
And our gap is this. How many homes is that gap before we hit capacity? Because we hear moratorium a lot, and we know like you said, that we can't impose it, needs to come from DEQ, but when would that be? I'd like to know something like that. That seems like that would be a good part of a growth plan that we would have as a city as well, too.
That's a great point. I think that's, and then we have.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just gonna kind of piggyback off of what Peter was saying. I know the school board had sort of like they had an open forum in the auditorium when they were talking about the bond, and Ryan Carpenter was there and he addressed a lot of questions, and a lot of it did pertain to the taxes and the assessed value. And I think the more that we can, and that was just for the school board, and I don't know how many people were online for that, but there were some people that showed up in person, not as many as I would like to have seen, judging from when I was watching it online. But I think that he was very transparent and did a really, really good job. He brought in his own personal taxes because he lives in Estacada himself, and sort of went off of, these are my taxes, this is what the assessed value is. And I thought it was, for me, I mean, even for me, it was really educational. It's like, oh, okay, I finally get this thing. So I think the more that we, I think we should do that as well, especially when we're talking wastewater, again, I personally am in support of the school bond. I mean, I have 2 kids in the district, and I mean, this is just not it is a need, definitely a need. It is a safety, things are a safety hazard at this point. So the more we can get that information, again, just to, wrap it up into a town hall sort of a situation, maybe make that like a subtopic as far as how do the taxes work? Where does the money go? That sort of a thing. And how much would a person pay? Because I know the community members that are not in favor of the school bond are senior community and community members on fixed incomes. It makes them very, very nervous, especially since PGE rates across the state just went up. And now, they just, all they're seeing is like, I'm just going to start paying more everywhere. And so just a little more education there, because people are kind of freaking out in the community. So, yeah.
Mayor.
Mine's kind of a question maybe for Peter. I don't know if this is a possibility. It piggybacks off what Paul said, but at the same time, we know moratorium is not anything we can do. We're all obvious of that. But is there a managed growth plan that can be put into play when your system hits this close without, just jamming it all in there until it fails and then say, okay, no more? Is there a way we can put in a managed plan to DEQ and say, okay, we're going to allow this many houses for the next 2 years or whatever it be till our plant's online, physically online? Is there a way we can do that?
I mean, my understanding is we're closer on the water than we are on the sewer. So I don't have the actual numbers on the sewer. If we feel like we're getting close, I think that what we would want to do at that point is proactively go to DEQ, and also the DLC, which is the Department of Land Conservation and Development, and kind of craft what that would be with them. And then we need to put it out there in the community, because anytime you're telling people that they can't build on their land, that creates a whole nother set of problems. So yeah, I think it would be really good if all of us knew how close we're getting to those levels, and then also what we have in the pipeline as far as building. And that would, and then 3 months, 6 months before we're getting there, I think that's when those conversations probably need to start. And Sandy did that. I mean, you're not prohibited from building a house in Sandy. It's just, I think they're limited to like 300 right now. And they keep like a running tally of, okay, we just got 3 more in or what have you. And so to try and inform the community of where they're at.
Good, that's good. Mike,
Just make sure I'm understanding it clearly. Properties get annexed in, the capacity is in the calculation. So we have all these properties that have been annexed into the city that are part of the calculations when they determine capacity for the sewer.
Mhm.
So right now, the 13 or whatever subdivisions that have been approved, that capacity was considered when it was annexed in,
Yes, when they,
and it's not an actual burden on the system yet.
when they annex it, they look at the highest possible use, so that the greatest density for those potential
Got it.
pieces of property. And then they calculate our city engineer calculates based on the kind of usage formulas. And then they'll say, based on that, this is the capacity that this is going to take. Houses don't actually use, I mean, comparatively to say, like if we had a big industrial project come in, houses don't use a whole lot of capacity. I mean, we've had a whole lot of houses. And I was just looking it up. So the last annexation we had was in 2022, and we got a statement from Curran McLeod, which is our engineer, and he said that the last capacity update to DEQ indicated the ADWF to the plant was less than 60% of 0.54 MGD dry weather design. And then you have wet weather design with just 50%. So it's in the wet weather, it hit, according to him, it's closer to like 70% capacity.
When everything's built out though,
But yeah,
when everything's been
everything was
approved.
built out to this new subdivision coming in. So, and then they approved that subdivision, so it'll be slightly higher.
I think that when my understanding is that we've got plenty of room, and I keep hearing that we're running out of space, but that's assuming that every single piece that's been annexed in the city is built out, functional, and creating burden on the systems.
Mhm.
So when they're running the calculations and they're saying they're getting 60% or whatever, that's assuming that every single house or every property that's annexed in that can allow for an apartment complex is built out to its maximum capacity and putting burden on the system. And that's not taking place yet. So,
Yeah.
and I don't think that burden's gonna come online before the sewer plant comes online. All those houses that are already assumed in the calculations, they would all have to be built out and new properties annexed in, and then them built out too, to create that burden. I don't think we're on the edge of the cliff when it comes to the sewer. As
And
far as
yeah,
that
and
is.
when we're talking about when we are like gonna reach 100% capacity or 75% capacity, that was based on the growth rate at the time when that was annexed in. And as we know, we've consistently seen that we're having less building than when these properties were annexed in. They're not being built at the same rate. So we had a lot less houses come in last year than we did the year before. And so we're probably, even less than what was projected going to come on in that same timeline. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
do you have the same for your water projections? Is that,
They should.
it seems like water might be, I mean.
Yeah, I don't.
Have done that for water also.
They should have done it for water also. The issue with water, and we're gonna have to reassess it, is as what we ran into, and we brought this back to you guys in the summer, and that we did not expect the significant jump in summer growth. I mean, we expected a jump, but the significant jump in summer growth based on people watering their lawns. And so we're going to try and address that in the water master plan, which has a water conservation plan, which will have set actions based on capacity. So when we get to like 70% of water usage in the summer, like we saw this summer, then we're going to say, you know, whatever the set level is, we're not going to water parks, or we're not going to allow outdoor watering, or we won't allow outdoor watering, you know, between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. or whatever we set those at, to help kind of decrease that usage. But at some point, we can't build more than we have water rights for. And that's going to be a bigger issue than the wastewater.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see a contrast between the numbers of like potential burden and actual burden. So when they are saying that you're at 70% during this weather event or whatever, what the current burden is, like with houses and facilities that are online right now, as opposed to the maximum burden when everything gets built out. That way, when you're not just, people aren't just hearing doom and gloom about what happens when everything's built out, but what's the current situation too?
I think the biggest, I mean, what's pushing the wastewater is not necessarily capacity, that does not help. It's the fact that the systems are so old, and the technology was not made for the type of levels that we're seeing. So it's not that we're running out of room. It's that it just is so old and can't handle.
Got it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Do we have any, because at the last council meeting, the guys, they brought up all their needs that they assessed us on. We're on, like, saying the third-party contractor, he was talking about like cost, and he was projecting off of his projection of community growth or whatnot. And
Yeah.
Councilman McElroy, I think, pointed out that, or it might have been the mayor, one of the two of you pointed out that we actually grew at like 2.5x what his scale was. Do we have any modern studies on what we think our growth is, like more recent than that, and that's more accurate? Because they're predicting we're going to go up 3,000 people in the next 10 years or something, he said, right? But realistically, if you look at what's been going on, is like, say there's another world shutdown or something, and people decide they don't want to be in the city again, then what did we influx this last time from that? It was a lot faster than, you know, 3,000 in 5 years or some, or 10 years, what they're predicting. So, I mean, this community could go what, from 5 to 10,000 exponentially quicker? Would that be correct?
So what I think Estacada is an attractive place for people to live. And the single family houses are not affordable, but more affordable than other spots in the region. So Metro, which is the regional government, which fortunately Estacada is not part of, does a buildable land inventory and housing needs analysis for 20 years. And if you look at, and under state law, they're required to have a 20-year buildable land inventory. But if you look at how they calculate the 20-year buildable land inventory, and they're doing it again, and I haven't been following the process, but what they normally will look at is the difference in zoning between what could be built and what's built. So if you look at like close in Southeast Portland, apartment complexes that were built in the 70s that might have, like the Joe Weston built during the 70s, that may have 20 units, 26 units, 16 units, whatever. Under the zoning, you could have 80 units. And so what they count is like 60 units being available on there. And they do the same thing with manufactured housing parks. So when they calculate it that way for the metro region, the result is there's not a need for urban growth boundary expansion. The problem is that, like, if they're very wealthy people that live on an acre, under the zoning, they might be allowed to have 7 more houses on their acre, but practically speaking, they want their garden and swimming pool, so it's not going to happen. So as that is artificially restricted growth, like single family housing growth in particular, then the satellite communities, which would be Scappoose, Sandy, Estacada, North Plains, there are a couple more in Washington County that have land in their urban growth boundaries. All of those cities have seen tremendous growth. So you've seen it, Sandy's seen it, Scappoose has seen it, North Plains has seen a ton. And then down Highway 99 West, so Canby and all those. So as those areas don't have land in their UGBs anymore, so Molalah's down to like 20 net developable residential acres, which is not very much. Unless they're able to get urban growth boundary expansions on an expedited basis, we're going to get a lot more growth because there's no other place that you can get lots. So a developer is going to look at the price of the dirt. They're going to look at the SDCs and other costs, the market, the density, and then they're going to build their development, and their goal is to make a profit. So if they can get 15%, great. If the cost per acre gets past a certain point in community X, if they can even get the acres, then it doesn't get built there and they have to look to another community, and the community is going to be a little further out. Well, we're against the national forest, so there's not, you know, we have surrounding communities that are kind of out of dirt. We've got whoever drew our UGB drew it big, so we're gonna have a lot of capacity for growth. And as I look at it, and the mayor sits on the Metro board, so he knows how they're calculating. He has an idea of how they're calculating it now. Unless they significantly deviate from how they've been calculating the UGB since 2004, because 2004 they switched how they used it. They have a tool called Metroscope. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. It's real boring real fast. The end result is unless areas like the Stafford Triangle get brought into the urban growth boundary, there are just very few places that the growth can happen. I mean, Clark County is like Ridgefield is, I don't think they're at capacity, but it's the same thing in Clark County. They've had just tremendous growth. And so the way I look at it is, do the surrounding cities have acres? Is it shovel ready? So like, do they have power, water, sewer on site? Because Happy Valley does have a bunch of land in their UGB, but they don't have water, sewer, and power to those areas yet. So how shovel ready is the dirt? How much single family dirt is there? And then if that's below a certain number, where's the closest dirt you can get? And my guess is the closest dirt you can get is here. A lot of times.
So to my point then.
Yeah, we're
let's
gonna
say
get a lot more growth
Yeah.
unless something dramatically changes with our state's land use, which seems unlikely.
We did an alternate projection as part of the housing needs analysis. What was that, 2 years ago? That was not the same projection that Steve Donovan used. So the alternate needs projection, the baseline has a much significant higher growth curve. And it's in our housing needs analysis, which is on the website, or I can email it out to you. Because it's kind of hard to like tell you what the growth rate was. But yeah, it based it on a lot of the things that Peter talked about, and also, you know, what we have seen as growth rate. And then do you remember what the top, I think it also looked at what we could, the highest number that we could get to within our UGB, and it was like
I thought it was like
8,800. So based on, based on if everything was built out in the UGB at the highest potential that it could be built out, we'd be like 8,800.
And that's counting these developments that have already been annexed in, but that aren't built
Yes.
currently, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But we would expect to see that start to happen, say, with an interest rate drop in the second quarter of this year or something, correct?
We
Potentially.
potentially you could expect to see increased growth. Yeah.
Okay, so what can we do to, I guess, to my point, what can we do to get in front of that? Because and what can we do to advertise that to the community, right? Because a lot of these people are going off like the numbers that Mr. Donovan presented, right? But if 1,500 more people, let's just use that number,
Mhm.
come into this community in the next year, that's going to drop that significantly.
Correct. So I think what's so frustrating is that based on state statutes, we're required to use Portland State University's numbers. Their numbers are just wrong. I mean, they're wrong all the time. And the US Census, which is kind of the gold standard, had Portland's population going down like 1,400. Portland State's had them going up 2,200. That impacts the amount of state shared dollars they get, because the dollar is based on the population projection, which is one of my significant issues that I have, because my communities all seem to get undercounted and other counties seem to get overcounted. So I think that there's a growing awareness that about the errors with the numbers. There's, I think, a growing awareness that a lot of metros, that if metros tasked with housing affordability, and they're projecting a lot of units going into existing footprints, that's going to make housing less affordable, and good luck building in Portland anyway. And so it's a regional question, I think, but until the answer is like, the more subdivisions we get, the lower we can keep the sewer rates. And that's why we didn't have a rate increase for so long, is because we were adding in so much capacity that it was the new growth paying for subsidizing everybody else. So that's I mean, I think maybe a town hall, it's how do you get people to understand these things? And anytime we're talking about invisible boundaries, it's challenging. But what I've done in other places is I've taken the property tax readout from like an existing house that kind of looks like a average house that was built in the 50s, post World War II, how much they're paying in property taxes, and then a new house. New houses here are selling for over $700,000, and how much they're paying in taxes, and then calculating it. This is how many dwellings we had prior to 1990. This is how many dwellings we have now. Here's the tax rate that all the houses in 1990, it's max 3% a year. There were years that didn't go up. Here's how much they're paying in property taxes. Here's how much the new growth is paying in property taxes. And in King City, that was really easy to do, because phase one was all built, prior to 1980, and then the next phases happened in the 90s. We could probably maybe not do it as comprehensively, but come up with some of those numbers, and that really makes it does make growth more palatable to people, because they understand that their benefit from growth. And the other thing is, if we continue building houses, then we have workers that are earning a real good wage that don't have to drive far from Estacada to get to a job site. And, that's great for folks in the construction industry, or that helps us attract a company that, a developer to have their headquarters here and keep their equipment in Estacada, so they don't have to move it every day. So I think that there are a variety of ways we could, if we get that data, hopefully inform the public. Because developers actually look at city council meetings, and they look at how community responds to development. And they're a lot more reluctant in going into a community that doesn't support development. And right now we have a really good reputation, and right now some of our neighbors don't. So it's just getting word out to those developers.
Melanie.
Right. I just wanted, in listening to all this, I have a couple of thoughts, and maybe it's time for a little break, because we have been sitting here for a while. But first of all, growth helps pay for things, but growth causes change and is making everybody really nervous. And I think the infrastructure concerns are just the excuse that we can pull on to say, hey, we don't have to have this growth and this change, because look, we can't support it. But if it wasn't for that, they'd find some other reason why, because growth is scary. We want it to feel, even the newer people who are here want this to still feel like a small town, but the growth helps us pay for the things that keep it nice here. They pay for our police. It helps pay for parks. It helps keep our rates down for utilities. But how do we not lose that small town feel and let everybody feel connected, and let in a small town, people still have a voice, and you don't get that in a big city very often. And so if there's things that we can do and we can start to move on in this next year to help people feel like we understand that value, I think it will be a benefit. And then also, that was a good question, whoever brought it up, how long till we're at capacity? That way people can kind of count down. They know, hey, because I hear like can we support 1,000 new houses? Well, 1,000 new houses, that would be half as many again as we have. And we're aiming, that's we have like 1,200 lots, I think, that are pre-approved. And so that is a lot, but those have already been considered. We have to also realize, that if they can calculate capacity, they can obviously calculate how many homes until we would be at that. So then we could kind of do a countdown. People could keep track of that. That might be helpful. The average person uses about 100 gallons a day. So if there's 2.6 people living in a house, it's not very much that's used in each house. But let's say, I think we calculated at 400 gallons per day. So if we have 2,000 homes, which is, I'm just throwing these numbers out there, and we times that by 400 gallons a day, that's about 800,000 gallons of water a day. And that's kind of where we're at right now in the winter. I think 0.8, 0.9 is. Okay, so we're a little lower than that. We have 2.6 million gallons a day of water rights. So it looks like we have a ton of capacity left in water, but then in the summertime, that will double. And then we're up at 1.6, 1.7 on our high days, 1.8. And we need to get this water master plan done. We need to get the engineering done to upgrade the plant so we can do quick fixes to get it to run at 2 million gallons a day. But then we need to also upgrade it to get to our full 2.6. And long-term, we need to be increasing that. But just to say households inside the water that we need for people is about what we're using in the wintertime is 0.7, it's actually not a lot. And adding houses, if we added 1,200 more houses times 400 gallons a day, that's another 500,000 gallons of water. And so they should be able to, and all that to say, it adds up slowly as you add houses, but I should be able to work with Curry McLeod and get a number of, when we would be at capacity. Where we really are limited is if a big industrial water user wanted to come in, we can't spare that. So anyway, just to say growth is good is if it's managed and if it lets us maintain our small community feel, but it helps pay for the things that we need. But it would be good to know how long till we're at capacity so people it's like this cliff with this fog and you don't know when you're going to fall off. Oh, we're over capacity now, but we should be able to calculate that so we know how many miles we have to go before we're going to fall off that cliff. And it's not this big nebulous fog in the distance that makes people very nervous because it's not stated. So I think we can work on that.
Yeah, I think it's a great goal for, really looking at your growth management, because you bring up a point where if you bring in an industrial provider, right, just having that stress test done, that might trigger, you might have to slow down growth, right? So like if there is a big user that did bring in, right, you'd really need to think about that, right? Like what is the maximum that the council would you really want to be capacity for industrial use, right? So it's kind of knowing that, in your back pocket and just how you manage that growth. I'm just excited you're having a conversation because I think it's an important conversation. To Peter's point, you're going to grow faster than what PSU is going to show you. And it's just understanding you got two forks in the road. You're going to continue to have residential, but as you bring in some industrial users, that might slow you down residential. So just really understanding and the timing of that. Melanie? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No.
Oh,
Forgot
but
to put that back down.
I did finish reading I haven't read this wastewater capacity since Kurt sent it out in 2022. So I just finished reading. And it does say in summary, that the remaining capacity could support as many as an additional 4,800 population at a conservative 100 GPCD, which I don't know what that stands for.
Park and,
Yeah,
Yeah,
something.
it'd be interesting to know what, then convert that over to like how big an industrial facility. So
Mhm.
what's 4,800 minus that, just stress testing it a little bit, Mayor?
Oh, just one more question. And we've hit it from what it can withstand. Okay. People have a hard time judging what that is, right? You got that. So can we go back to when it was built and what its capacity was meant for? So
Mhm.
finding out what it could do from the day it was built.
Yeah.
And do the same with the water plant.
Mhm.
What was the maximum it could handle? Instead of hitting it at the other end and trying to get people to guess, well, okay, they got this many houses and this many people, it's gonna take this far to get to the end. Instead of doing that, let's see it from the other end. What was it built for?
Mhm.
That way they have a solid number. Okay, they built it in whatever year it was, and this is what it was made to handle. Done. And then you don't have to go back and forth with that guessing. Instead of guessing it from the end, let's look at it from the beginning.
I think it's good. Okay, we have one goal left, Melanie, and Mayor and Council here. We could go through that and then I think we could wrap up, or do we want to take a break? So what's your thought?
let's take a quick break.
Take a
after
quick break
this.
here?
Yeah.
Okay, all
I
right.
think.
So
And then we'll come back and do.
then
the-
we'll do a wrap
do a
up. I
yeah.
think we'll get you out of here by 3 though. So public safety, emergency preparedness, council's feedback on this goals, or what are your thoughts on this moving forward? I know there's some good conversations going with the fire department, talking about the shared resources with Clackamas County, hazard awareness. Jerry?
I really think that we've done a great job since the fire of, addressing potential threats, and stuff. I think that we just need to move forward, continue moving forward with what we're already doing. We can't, think that we're done and move on. We need to continue adjusting it, continue advancing it, and just keep that, all those plans that we've been working on over the last couple of years, moving forward, keep developing on.
Mayor?
Just piggybacking on Jerry, he's absolutely right. I've talked with the fire department and about what they're doing and how strong they feel and the commitment they have and what we're doing going forward. And they're definitely 100% in it. They've given their all, the volunteers are all on board. It's really strong right now. So changing it would not be a good idea. Having the conversations with the county, Mendoza, he tells me the plan that we have and bringing on the officers that we have and the relationship that's actually formed around the city with Clackamas County has been good and strong. So I feel like we need to continue with that. That's a model that works. And focus our attention on that, whatever they need. And whatever, Mendoza's promised to give us everything that we need, and he's working every angle he can. So it's a good thing. So appreciate that.
Well,
Was in Bend earlier this year, or earlier last year, I guess. So they had a lot of wildfire evacuation route signs up. Is that something that we could do in Estacada or work with Clackamas County to do something like that as well too?
Yes, yeah. And I'm actually going to be bringing the updated natural hazard mitigation plan. And number 1 is wildfire evacuation planning. That's our first goal in that is wildfire evacuation planning. And if we get that grant that we applied for with the Federal Department of Transportation, that was one of our goals on that too.
Great. Thank you.
yeah, I think that's a great opportunity to really think about that for as a awareness evacuation, residents as far as hazard mitigation grants, that's something that should fall within maybe an action plan to think about for next year. Continue to pursue that for your residents and having that awareness built. So fantastic there. So, all right, shall we take a break then? 5-minute
Take a
break?
Quick break. We still need to do committee liaison assignments, just to, I don't think that'll take very long.
Do that and then we'll wrap up.
And
there.
wrap up.
Okay.
Okay. All right, quick break. I was gonna have more snacks, but I think if we're gonna do that, I'll set them out, but.
Oh, so what I was saying, so a few years ago, Danny Scott, who has since passed, he was working with a company that was going to put in, I think it was 8 softball, baseball fields, and 6 soccer, football fields, in that 40, which obviously isn't gonna happen now, but the things that they ran up against, the problems that they ran is for like an outside company to come in and do that and maintain it. That you're talking, 2-day tournaments, 3-day tournaments. One of the biggest issues that we have out here is we have nowhere to put those all during 2 or 3 days. We don't have any hotel space. All we have, and now we have some extra RV spaces, but we don't have any hotels.
You just talking about like cleanup, things like that?
Well, no, just for the people coming out, so in order for an outside company to come in and put in a facility like that, even if we were putting money towards it, the way that they're gonna make money is during the summer, they're gonna hold a weekend tournament. They're gonna hold a weekend softball tournament. Like, I was on a traveling softball team, and we would go to a city and we would play a 2 or 3 day tournament. We would stay in hotels, eat in town, but the biggest thing that the biggest roadblock to us having that, and I mean, he had it all lined out. There's a big newspaper article, if you go in Pamplin, there's a big article. I mean, this is back in like 2003, I think. But the biggest roadblock that we had out here is for them to make money in their time, they need hotel space. They need places to put these people that come out for those weekend tournaments. And that was, like I said, that was the biggest roadblock out here, is we just don't have anywhere to put people, and that's the enticing thing for them, is they can make $200,000 on a weekend softball tournament. They can make,
Well, this is why I wanted to have a cheer competition as a high school, because
Yeah.
like.
we just don't have anywhere to put people.
But see, when you get private equity involved, they can assess that too, but so there's
I don't know how Jonathan went. There he comes, maybe.
So before we get back into it, I just want, I want you guys to know that for me, on a personal level, I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm so confident in your guys' abilities and everything that I've heard about what you guys are doing. I just want you to know that you know, anything that you guys are involved in, I feel a lot more comfortable about the outcome for the city, you know, when you guys are involved. So thank you guys.
This coming from a Chiefs fan though, so.
Does that mean they got to do the trivia questions next year?
Hmm. It is great to have such long-term employees, you know, that aren't, it's not a constant turnover. It really helps to have us have continuity, and we keep bringing on new people. We do have more new people working at the city now than I have ever known in my past 15 years. And so that's great too, new folks joining us, but it's great to have the long-term continuity. So, all right, I think we'll go back into session and get ready to wrap it up here.
All right, we're live. Okay. Okay, we wanted to talk a little bit about the appointed committees, right? And Melanie, you printed out for us, and I think it's a good opportunity to revisit this for goal setting. We briefly touched earlier about thinking about a couple things. One, I love the idea that Mike brought up about, you know, engaging youth on our committees, having an ad hoc position. Great way to start that. I think also talking about the Citizens Academy is another great activity for 2024 to bring forward to the council for goal setting. And then I think, you know, Melanie, if you want to just talk about, I don't know if all these are full. You have a lot of committees, or thinking about combining some there too. So that
Yeah.
I'll let you take it from there.
I did include in the papers that I handed out today, the list of our committees that we do have. We have a lot. And at this point, I think they are all, if somebody and in the council accomplishments, I had started writing appointed Parks and Rec commissioners, appointed every month, there was an appointment. And then finally, I think I just dropped that off because it seems like every time we turn around, we're appointing new committee members. And I know it's hard to a certain degree for people. They get really enthusiastic about something and then something will change in their life and they just can't continue, you know, to make the commitment. So I understand that there's turnover, but there has been a lot of turnover in the past year or two, especially. And then we do tend to get people to fill them up. So I kind of tried to highlight some of the, I guess, the main points of each committee, and we'll want to go through and either confirm, like you want to stay on the same committee that you're being a liaison to, or you want to get a, you know, be on a new one. The other thought was, are all of these committees that they work for the council appoints them and they're to carry forward the priorities of the council. Are they all, is this arrangement how the council really sees being beneficial? Or do we maybe want to do some combinations of, you know, if we wanted to look for, I don't know that we could add another committee if we wanted to add the Economic Development Commission. I don't know that we'd want to just flat out add another one, or if we'd want to incorporate some of these other committees like the Infrastructure Committee, or members of Downtown Estacada Commission. I think they're pretty focused on being that Main Street program right now. And so I don't know how they would fit in, and John might have more to say about that. But also like the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, they have suggested some code changes they'd like to make, just clarifying their activities. But does the council really want them to meet every month? Do they need to meet every month, or are they more like on specific assignments? Okay, we're doing a transportation system plan. We need to pull in the DEI to make sure that we're not missing anybody, that everybody's at the table that should be, you know, where they have certain assignments, and we'd have to figure out what those assignments would be when they'd be pulled in. Or do you like have them meet every month? I don't know. Did you want to add anything, Elena, or John, about those conversations that we've had? I feel like I just kind of muddied the water, but just want to make sure that the council, and this might just not be resolved today, but a goal, if you're happy with how everything is going, that's great. And if you'd like to talk about some different arrangements, you know, we can make that a goal for how to refine the committees for in the coming year.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, every committee has a staff liaison. And we're running out of staff if we're adding new committees. So I would recommend that if we're going to consider adding another committee, if we add the EDC, that we look at either combining a couple of committees or getting rid of committees or something to that effect. So just up for your consideration, just knowing staff capacity.
Mhm. But does anybody have questions or do you want to go ahead and go? We could, Charity, or who was up first? I don't know.
Jonathan.
Jonathan was first. Sorry, Charity.
No, you're good.
Yeah, so we could look at removing them, certain committees.
Yeah, so you're required to have two committees, the budget committee and the planning commission. The rest of these committees are ad hoc committees, so you could have them or not. And then the other question is, do you want to direct them to take on specific issues, or do you want them coming up with issues and bringing them to you? So those are, as you think about how, as you think about the committees and how the committees work, is there like some specific something that you would want the committee to focus on and bring you best practices? Or do you want them to kind of brainstorm and then come up with their own things? And that, I just mentioned that because I've seen a lot of jurisdictions do it differently, and the best answer is whatever you guys think. But sometimes these committees can take up just a tremendous amount of staff time. And then what they end up bringing councils is not what the council intended, or in some instances actually is not helpful. Because then if the council doesn't share this vision, they can get kind of upset about it and it creates problems. And so where I've seen it, I think most successfully is when the committee understands what their role is, which isn't to direct staff. That's Melanie's job. Your job's to direct Melanie, Melanie's job to direct staff. But rather, if council says, we have this, we know that the kids don't have enough fields, Parks and Recreation Committee. How often are these fields being utilized? Where are other options to put fields? And that could be the fields could be outside your urban growth boundary on cheap land, and then the bathrooms could be inside your urban growth boundary where they're allowed. Something like that, where they're really bringing you options that would allow you to say, this is the amount of money we need in order to build this sort of complex that we want. Here's how jurisdiction X did it, versus like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they necessarily do at their monthly meeting, but it might not be focused on, it might be focused on exactly what you want, but it might not be. And so that's all I would add, is that if you consider that your city employees, like their time is as a city asset, and in any ad hoc committee will take up a portion of their time, it's measuring how much time is it taking, is it an effective use of their time, and then are these committees giving you what you want? And if they're efficient and giving you what they want, that's great. If not, then maybe helping them understand how they can give you what you want might be good.
So my other question with that was, thank you for clarifying that. So on these committees, what do we have you received any kind of feedback as to what they completed versus didn't complete in their goals for the year? I know when I came on, there was a committee that I just went and sat just to be a part of, because I was asked to show up and meet with somebody that was struggling with it, right? And the community has regularly said that they don't like this DEIC committee. And I'm not necessarily a fan of it either, but there's portions of it, and this is no attack to anybody on it, but there's portions of it that I don't think the community is aware that they do, like as far as like the disability portions, making sure that pathways are accessible for people in wheelchairs or with canes. There's parts that are missed, right? However, if the community is saying like, we don't like this one, like, I know that one thing I did is I came to that committee and I gave suggestions even, and they said, oh, this isn't our plan. But I haven't seen any of those actions taken. So at what point do we cut bait and quit wasting time on a resource that isn't really doing or isn't really providing? And can we roll part of that into, could you roll like the disability portion of that into your infrastructure or something, right? Or your traffic, thank you, traffic safety plan or something. Thank you for that, Mayor. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Do you want, are you gonna talk about when they come back? They're coming back on an annual basis. I was gonna answer that question unless you were.
The strategic planning.
That for all of the committees will be
All-
coming back to the
yeah,
council, right? with
Yeah,
their-
so, you know, it is in the code that all the committees create an annual project plan. And then they bring that project plan back to the council once a year in April. So yeah, every single committee would do that. Now, as far as the DEIC, I just, you know, I do a lot of grant writing, and I know, you know, that is what a lot of these funders are looking for, is something that falls along that. And so I would urge you to consider, if you're going to completely cut it, maybe instead have it be kind of like the HMAC, have it be an on needed basis advisory committee instead of completely cutting it.
but I would challenge the council to also consider our moral values here and what the community wants outside of just assessing what free money we can get from the government by having something underneath of our constraints. You know, and I'm not taking away from what you're saying. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
there is a point here where we have stuff just because we want money. Like, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pander.
having them like we use them for the TSP, I would not have considering that pander, because they're looking at it. Are we reaching the people that need to be reached? Are we getting the input from the community members that need to? Are we having enough, you know, accessible crosswalks? And that's not pandering. That's something that's very needed.
Sure, but it also could be assessed by the traffic safety plan, correct? That should be something we should be looking at anyway, to a point. Listen, I'm not
Yeah.
under the
Right.
attack here. I'm just
Yeah.
holistically bringing up something.
We're
This
just
is not
kinda-
meant as a personal jab.
And we're just kind of, we don't want to delve this deep at this time, but just so if it's a goal that the council wants to set to review committees, we could do that. And knowing also that each person on the committee really values, they're on that committee because they have strong values for that. So it's
And I
It's-
think this is a great discussion here, but I think it's one that deserves more time than
right.
trying to squeeze it here at the end of our retreat. Because, you know, there's a lot of things to look at here. I agree, we need to make some changes, and we've talked about this. We need to condense down, we need to get more streamlined. I agree with that totally. I think we need more time to look at this and discuss between each other. Maybe a workshop would be preferable here.
Okay.
And then go over this before April, so we can all have a chance to weigh in on it, talk about it, figure out the best solutions and go forward with it. Rather than shoving it at the end of a retreat, we've already been here for 4 hours, would be a better way to handle it.
Right. So if it's a priority that for the council to talk about this
Yeah.
in the future. we
And I
can
think it
act on
is.
yeah.
We just set a workshop up.
Right.
I guess, okay, let me reframe my question. Can we set a review date to review what committees are doing what and what they have
Yes. we could do
seriously
that. Yeah. To
accomplished?
review committees. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's in April, you said, Elena?
April is when they present their project plans. So they should be, based on the calendar that we set up for the committees, they should be doing it right now, doing their assessing what they accomplished last year and then setting goals for the new year.
Okay, great.
So I would say probably by March, all of the committees should have done that information, and you could sit down with them and go review what they've done. In April, they'll be presenting their new plan for the new year and their budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just real quick, and this is just to tie it all in. I am in favor for looking over some of these committees in the future, and definitely paring down or consolidating, or even just saying, hey, meet as needed or on a quarterly basis. But also I do think it really is important that we implement this Economic Development Commission, and if we can combine that with infrastructure or something, that would be really great, because I think that's something that this community definitely needs. And And to have those people from either, somebody from the school board, somebody from PGE, whatever, to sit on that board to help us with our growth and development. So I think that's important to squeeze in there, but I'm definitely in favor for looking at reviewing these committees. And we have a small town, and I love that we have all these committees and commissions, and it gives people an opportunity to be involved, but I do think it's somewhat bloated and redundant. But yeah, so there's my thoughts. Anyway.
Well,
I'm on board as well too for review, and just want to toss out, trying to keep things moving forward. I am fine with commissions that I'm assigned to now. I'd like to keep that
Okay.
the same, and I don't know if that's the same for others here as well too, just stay with the same ones that they've got.
I know Jonathan wanted to actually get a committee too. This.
I would like to give them one.
Okay.
I'm struggling with my schedule to try to keep up with the traffic and public safety meetings.
Okay.
If that's something that
When-
Jonathan would be up for taking on, it would be amazing.
Do you need me to look at when they meet?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, because the
Yeah.
Traffic and Public Safety Committee meets generally the fourth Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Or we could just go through it. So who's on Arts Commission? Jerry, okay. And Parks and Rec is Charity. Is that still?
That's fine.
Okay.
I think they're gonna move time, or they may have moved time. They're talking about pushing it out a little later in the,
They might.
it was something they talked about in the, we
Okay.
didn't have a meeting this December because of the holiday, but
Okay,
6.
To
Okay,
6
that's
o'clock.
better. Yeah.
okay, okay, perfect. And then Traffic and Public Safety would be Jonathan, if you're good with that.
Yeah, I'll take it for now.
All right, infrastructure was Mike, yeah. And the infrastructure committee is a good example of a committee that typically just meets quarterly. They review specific things. They are kind of eyes and ears out in the community, but they also have like specific tasks that could be incorporated into it.
Mike, my question's for Mike. If the infrastructure committee was changed to an economic development committee, would you be willing to continue on that?
Yeah.
Because I think you'd be great for it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a great
I-
one for you with your knowledge.
And I don't share the feeling that the economic development would need to be combined with anything else. Personally, I don't feel that way. It's going to be the one committee that has a direct return on resources for employing staff.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be a burden.
Yeah.
That's something that's going to create opportunity for the city and bring in revenue. I think that, I just wouldn't, as long as it worked cleanly together. I don't know where the other people that are meeting for that committee, if they're interested in that as well. I don't want to speak for them.
Right.
So I'd speak
It
to the
would
rest
be
of the people on the committee and see if that's something that they're interested in participating in too, because they signed up for the infrastructure and you're add this new scope of work for them.
Yeah.
Make sure that's something that they're fired up about too.
Mhm.
But yeah, if it did get combined, I'd be more than happy to be a part of
Like
that.
I said, I think with your knowledge and your, I think you'd be absolutely amazing for that committee. So.
Thanks.
Okay, Downtown Estacada. Who's that? That's Jerry. Okay. So that's your second one. Is that okay with?
I would love to keep them both if I
Alright.
could.
Anybody wants to arm wrestle for get a new committee, just
Arts.
speak up. Okay, and then we got the DEI, and that's Heidi. You'll continue with that, okay? The library board, Paul. And then planning, do we have a, Paul's on that one too, right? And you're welcome to attend any meetings. I think it lists it out in the code that the council can attend any of these meetings. As far as participating in the meeting, it's typically just the liaison that actually participates in the meeting. But you're always welcome to attend. And
I have the fire department.
yeah, I didn't list the outside ones. So the mayor goes to fire, charity goes to school. Do you still want to keep that? You have time, okay. Oh yeah, C4 is the mayor with Counselor
President.
Hughes is
President,
backup,
mhm.
right? Okay. Now we will be electing a new council president tomorrow night. However, we don't elect a new C4 alternate and until next, they go every 2 years. So it won't necessarily be council president. If Charities doesn't remain as the
Just,
council
just saying
president,
if
but
charity.
they don't go
she's
hand in
Probably
hand.
gonna get it again.
I second that.
Okay, any other committees that we should be keeping track of? Okay. All right, so
We used to send someone to is it the Clackamas River Basin Council?
I go to that all the time.
Do you? You
Anytime
still-
I have a tour or anything, I've
Yeah,
done
you
all
still
of them.
attend
I've
that
never
one?
missed
Oh.
one.
Okay.
I think that's the Clackamas River, that's Clackamas River water
Oh,
providers.
yeah.
So the Clackamas River Basin Council is something, Norm Ernst used to be on that.
A long
He
time.
worked for PGE, he was on the Basin Council. And it's a little bit bigger of a reach than just us, but if anybody's ever interested in looking at that, we could help you get information.
Is that a quarterly
Good.
or?
I don't know. Are you saying you'd be interested? Let me find out what the information is, when they meet, what the responsibility, I'll just send out some information about the Clackamas River Basin Council. Okay,
Was in our TMBL.
okay. Perfect. Okay, so it sounds like we will be having more discussion on this and maybe doing a revamp to kind of make sure that we don't want to move backwards, we want to move forwards and make sure that everything that we're putting time and effort and funds into is what the council priorities are, so.
Yeah, I think fall underneath your kind of your growth management strategy,
Okay,
what your
right,
committees are kind of moving forward from that standpoint.
right,
So,
okay.
well, just again, just want to say thank you, for your time today, all of you. I mean, it's you volunteer, people like, a lot of times I say they think, you're paid, you're not paid, or if it is, it's so little, maybe it buys you a cup of coffee, but, and thank you for the staff coming in here today. And before we leave, I just wanted to go around the room here with the council and the mayor and just any closing remarks you had on the 5 strategic goals, any other thoughts that might have came up while we were talking today that something that popped in your mind or something during discussion there and capture that. So let's start with Jerry and we'll finish over there with Peter there.
First thing, I'm sorry I was late. I was at a birthday and I apologize for being late, but I think that the plan, the goals and the plan that we have going forward is going to be great. And I can't wait to see what we accomplish this year with, between the, as you've stated many times, the great staff that we have and this group that is cohesive and works well together. I really appreciate, and I can't wait to see what we accomplish in the next year.
I just think I just appreciate you guys with the warm welcome, especially being new, helping me through some of this stuff. And I know I'm a little bit more charismatic and to the point than some other people, but my heart in this is to serve our community. And I just want to reaffirm that to you. My heart is not to offend anybody or to attack people, but I want what's best for our kids. I want what's best for our community. I want to include the people that are on social media, that let's just say the 25 to 40-year-old demographic that's not in here helping us make these decisions for them and their families. Like, I want to try to get them more involved. That's my goals. It's not from a place of malice or anger or anything like that. So, and then I'd like to challenge you guys. I think it's really cool that we all can have this conversation and come from different angles and attack this from different positions. But I'd like to challenge, especially you guys as city leadership, as city staff and people, that you guys are the rock of this community when the community is looking at the leadership and the representation of it, especially when people from outside the community come in. So I'd like to encourage and challenge you to do something to be a standard of excellence for this community, to be a barrier, whether it's do something with your fitness, whether it's read a book, take a course, learn a new skill. I mean, I'm going to challenge the community with the same thing, but I'd really like to see the staff and the council do this very thing, because we are the first line when people are new to this community and the direct representation of it and its strength.
It's funny you bring that up. I just heard a city did a citywide goal, 10,000 steps a day, right? But fitness or awareness, just little things like that to engage the community and get people involved. But Mike.
I appreciate everybody's time on Sunday and excited about what's going to be happening over the next year. I think the goals line out what the plan is. I'm excited to see how it rolls out. So really excited to see everything get going on the wastewater treatment plant. So appreciate everyone's time. That's all I got.
First, I want to thank you, John, for the exhaustive list of questions that you, that you said. But I mean, I get there was a method to the madness. And once we got to talking, I'm like, well, okay, I get where he's going with this. And it was just to really get to the nitty gritty from each and every one of us, what the main goals would be for our city. And I love that it seems like we're kind of all on the same page and that we came back and the same concerns and the wants and desires and everything. I think we're all pretty much right there. So I just thank you for that list of questions, and then that we were able to meet with you beforehand. And I appreciate that very much. Everybody's time, staff's time. You know, it's hard to come out on a Sunday. Sunday is like this is my family day. So I get it if it's other people's family day too. So, and also Dawn and Chris, you guys, you know, I don't think you guys get thanked enough for everything that you do and all the meetings you come to, and you sit quietly, but I know you're taking it all in, and, you guys are a great resource for us if we need you, and, appreciate it very much.
I'll let them go.
Just thinking back after the discussion today, a book that I read recently by John Steinbeck, My Travels with Charlie, written in the 60s. He went around traveling the country, Steinbeck did, and there was an overwhelming theme in that book as he went from town to town to town, was that people were frustrated with growth and what's happening in my small town. This was in 1960. And Steinbeck, in his wisdom, as he always does, said, as long as people are having babies, there will be progress. So our challenge here is nothing new. We're facing what's happened in our small town, don't Portland or Estacada, all those things. But we are in a town that, we are the fastest growing city in Oregon,
Yes.
percentage wise, at least. We've got a great challenge ahead of us. It's nothing new, but it's a great challenge for not just council, but staff and really the community as a whole. So embrace that challenge. It's a good one. I'm embracing it. I think the community's embracing it as well too. And I know the city is, and I thank you. And it's a great journey that we're on.
Wow, that was great. I think we're a really cohesive team, and even with city staff. I'm really excited to see what we can accomplish. I think we have clear and objective goals.
I just remember where things were in 2008 when I was trying to get tourism grants. Both of us were, and we were successful. And where we are now, and where the city could end up. I'm just incredibly proud of what's happened, and just trying to figure out a way to maintain these vision and values of the community while still growing and creating opportunities for people, so that, people's kids can be able to live in Estacada and all those things. And it's just tremendous how much has happened, how much progress the city's made in the last 15 years. And it's wonderful to see. Yeah. And now I get to see you every 2 weeks. I used to only barely ever.
I think we'll just defer to the council unless staff has anything in particular you wanted to share at the end here. Okay, we'll hand it back to
All
you.
right, my turn, huh? Well, I'll tell you, you always hear me say I've been here a long time, but I was encouraged when Peter came on, because there was somebody I've worked with all the way back. So he knows a lot of what we've been through over the years, and Melanie, yourself, same thing. We've been in it for a long haul. And then when John LaGarza came on, I really felt good, because here's a guy I worked with back in the day to get businesses into the industrial park. And, I just think back of everything we've been through to get right here. And I'm encouraged by the people that are sitting at this table, because they're all different views on how they're going to get there. But at the end of the day, they always manage to come together for one decision. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to say we have a council that actually leaves a room in one piece. They don't fight. They may not agree, but they don't fight. And I want to say to the staff, you guys put up with an amazing amount of stuff. I can't even begin to let people know what that is. But I commend you on that. You are a great people. And without you, we'd be up a creek, to say the least. And same with Public Works. You guys do an amazing job. I wouldn't want to have your job for nothing. But you do a great job through and through, and you always come through. So I'm proud of each and every one of you. So thank you for coming today, and thank you for being a part of this.
All right, thank you.